All right, I will call tonight's special meeting, rescheduled meeting of the Essex Selectboard to order for Monday, November 10th. Welcome and thanks for trudging through the snow to be here. Starting off with agenda additions or changes. Is there anything from staff?
Nothing from staff.
The planning commission will not be here.
Oh, apologies. Planning
Yep.
commission will not be here.
Yep. Anything from the board?
On that moment, will they be back next week, or?
We'll see if we can get them the next meeting. They weren't available tonight.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I missed that.
The planning commission won't be here
Okay.
this evening for their regularly scheduled update. And we're uncertain whether PCAB will be here, correct? So they may still be here. But to Ethan?
A motion to strike business item 6D.
Okay. So there's a motion to amend the agenda to remove item 6D since the planning commission will not be here this evening. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Andy. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries and our agenda for this evening is now amended. Next up is public to be heard. Let me pull up my handy cheat sheet that I created a while ago. At the start of the meeting, I neglected to mention, please silence your phones. For anyone online, please keep your microphones muted until recognized by the chair. For public to be heard is a time when members of the community can address the select board. We ask that you please be civil, please be brief. As a general rule, any comments longer than a few minutes represent the need to have a longer, deeper conversation, either via email, a meeting, or by being added to a future agenda. Please keep this in mind. Please refrain from side conversations. Please be respectful of staff and those speaking. And when called on by the chair, please state your name and residence for the record. Public to be heard is a time for comments on consent items or items that are not on the agenda. Since there was some emails and discussion received, I will just point out, since our last meeting, we do have an agenda item on the Scannell application. So public to be, if you're here to comment on Scannell, please hold off until that agenda item, since there is a warned agenda item for that. So with that, I will open it up to public comment. If you're in the room, you can raise your physical hand. If you are online, there is a reactions button in the lower middle of your screen. From there, you will have the option to raise your hand. Betsy, come on forward.
This is simple. Betsy Dunn. We don't see the people online. You don't have them on the board. How can we tell if they have a hand raised?
I can see them here.
Oh, so we, okay.
I see one up right now.
All right, great. Thank you.
I think that's Anne.
Yeah, it is me.
There's a chair in the way.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. I practiced my remarks to make sure I could keep them within an allotted time, so it'll be short. And I want to say thank you, all of you, right? The select board, town manager, town staff, and I'm not here to speak about any particular application. I'm really here to talk about how the town operates, and I'm asking you here to support the town's development review board. I know you guys appointed.
And is this in relation to the DRB and the Scannell?
No, it's not. I'm just saying, my comment is, in general, no matter what the application, whether I agree with the DRB's decision or not, I think the town needs to uphold the DRB's decisions and support them if they are appealed. And the reason why I say that is that unlike, I'm a member of the Economic Development Commission, right, which is only advisory, but your DRB is a quasi-judicial board whose responsibilities are established in law. They evaluate that application and they make a decision. And whether I like it or not, they make this decision. And then if the applicant doesn't like that decision, it's their right to appeal, right? And there's been another application that we know has been appealed besides the Scannell application. And from the perspective of someone who's watched people, like, it's not been the literal blood, sweat, and tears, but it has certainly been the proverbial blood, sweat, and tears in those meetings. And I think like it does a huge disservice to the people who are the volunteers on that commission to undercut their, if you are to, it would not be in the town's interest, meaning the town residents' interest and the board's interest, to undercut the decisions of the DRB. At this point, no matter what, I mean, unless it's something that's like the court rules it's like illegal or wrong in some way, right? But the thought being that like people lose trust in the process, right? If we don't follow the process, the whole enchilada works when the town supports its decision development review board, right? People stop showing up, right? People feel like their voices don't matter. And then they say things like, oh, the process is corrupt or something like that. And like, I believe like it's really important for us to uphold the processes. Like we don't want appeals to increase because that's going to increase our legal bills. And we want volunteers. I think it's hard to recruit people to these boards, especially the DRB. It's just a massive amount of time. And so I just think that we need to support the people. You all need to support the people that you put in place in those roles. Like, I mean, like imagine in your workplace if your boss like undercuts you in your role. It's like, it's time to quit. Like it's not the way we want to operate. So I would just encourage you to please uphold the DRB's decisions if they go to litigation. The town can defend, doesn't have to defend, they can just be completely neutral and there's no reason to be in secrecy. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thanks. I do see a hand online. Lorraine?
Thank you, Chair. Lorraine Saloom, 74 Center Road. Just a quick housekeeping item. In the last DRB meeting, I noted that there was a DRB member that said that the town plan is not a regulatory doc. And of course, we know the majority of it is aspirational, but there's regulatory language that it relates to the town plan. I just want to encourage or make sure in the training of our quasi-judicial arms that people who are in these roles actually read the town plan. Page 5 is a pretty good read, as well as page 6. But it's a pretty easy document to read, and I would encourage all to read it. And just please make sure that that is included in the training in terms of understanding that there are certainly regulatory language that is in our town plan that's applicable in the review, and therefore the conformance by the staff that is often accompanies all these staff advice when they go into a town plan. And the other thing I asked too for housekeeping, is there a way to also take the copy of the town plan, turn it into a document that's not in that format? It's in a PDF format. It's cumbersome when you use it online. I would love a version of it that's just a straight text that we could quickly pull up and copy and paste or whatever. It just would make it a lot easier. Thanks.
Thanks, Lorraine. We'll see what we can do about the PDF format. David Scopin. David, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
I think I've done. I think I've made. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for permitting me to speak. And like Ann, I thank everyone who is so dedicated to making certain that the town runs efficiently, effectively, and in the best interest of the citizens of the town, who, of course, are the taxpayers, and make it all happen. Well, I had some questions about the executive session. And I wondered, how do you determine that it is necessary to go into executive session? And what does that actually mean? And why? Anyone can answer. Anyone who has an answer to it.
Without going into any detail about any specific executive session, because we can't divulge what we're talking about in executive, especially if it, well, not especially, but particularly when it's legal related, because that could have the potential to open the town up to liability. Typically, when there is an update on a probable or pending legal item, the town attorney or staff would make sure that that gets put on the agenda in order to inform the select board within that protected conversation that we're statutorily able to have outside of an open meeting.
I, I hear you. I don't understand the words you're saying. If it sounds more like something legal.
You have been hacked by the CCP thugs. You have been hacked.
Meeting, but some very
Jump
frightening.
in and say that that is completely unacceptable, and I would ask,
Well, now,
plead
hang
with
on.
whoever
Yeah,
that was to please
did not touch
stop.
Excuse me. I did not touch this. I did not touch my message pad at all. Something suddenly.
We don't think that that was you.
Wasn't
Yeah,
you.
you're fine. You're fine. Nobody
Oh.
thinks that that was you.
I'm losing all interest in AI and Zooms and everything else. Um, um, I'm just confused as to why it would be necessary for the public not to be part of a discussion that may have a down the road impact on the citizenry of the town. So if I can't, if it doesn't make sense to me now, maybe I'll just try to come back later and figure out why it is and how this system works, because it would seem as though, since we're all in this together, we would always be discussing things and capable of asking questions and voicing our opinions, etc. But as soon as you go into behind the closed doors, I and probably other citizens have no idea what is going on or why. And I'm assuming that we never really find out what occurred. Is that correct? Nothing is ever written down that we can read and find out why it was that we weren't permitted to be a part of the process.
Depends on the item, but if the board does take action, that would come to an open session, and the board would take action in open session.
Gotcha.
There are very few. There are very few instances where the board would be able to take action in executive session. One of those is real estate purchases, and I'm going off on a little bit of a off topic here. But this board does have a history that even though we could, with 8090 Upper Main Street, we did not, because we felt very strongly that that needed to be done in open session. So I, for one, as the chair of this board, am confident that there are no backroom deals, no discussions that are happening in executive session that should not be happening in executive session.
I think I have a better idea of what you're speaking of. So I will thank you very much for your time. And if I can figure out how to get away from this this madness, I will do so. Bye. Thank you.
David. I see Cheryl Van Epps, your hand is up online.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Van Epps. I live at 8 Rustic Drive in Essex Town. I just wanted to say that I agree with the comments that were made previously. And also, I would ask the board to please keep in mind the decisions made by you all affect the residents of the town of Essex. And I believe that's a population of 11,000-ish. So just, I would ask that you all keep that in mind, that your decisions affect us. Thank you.
Mr. Van Gaal, I think I saw your hand first.
Yeah, Reed Von Gall from 61 Old Stage Road. I will keep it as short as I can. I've written down, I'm just going to read it to make sure it's short. I do have a handout I'd like to give to everybody, which is more of an expanded version of what I'm going to say, so you understand, because I had to do this quickly. I did ask to be put on the agenda to have some time to explain the following, but was denied because what I would like to say is considered by the town as not new information to the select board. But I disagree with that. It's got to be new information, or I would have heard from you. You have asked me to keep this short, so I have a handout backing up the following and ask that it be included in the video of today's meeting, and I will keep my comments as short as possible. On August 18th, I was denied being able to use an existing well in lieu of spending $25,000 to connect to town water. Public Works testified that it would be dangerous because I was untrustworthy and may illegally connect the well to the town water and endanger Essex and the 12 municipalities of Champlain Water District. They based their acquisition on 3 examples where they indicated I knowingly violated town ordinances. The first they ended up admitting was actually their own violation of the ordinance and was asked to do an investigation of how that happened, which I have not seen. The other 2 examples were untrue, and the proof is documented in the handout I'll give you. As a result, you publicly stated you felt I was untrustworthy, and without knowing me or giving me the opportunity to present evidence to disprove the accusations and rebuild my character. I take this very seriously and have appealed the denial, not only to be able to use the well, but to have an opportunity to publicly clear my name. I am asking for you to read the handout to realize that Public Works has not proven that I am untrustworthy. And there is no more danger to the public than the many homes in this district that have access to both a well or spring and also have town water. Plus, I'm connecting my well to the basement, to my basement anyway, for geothermal heat. Thus, the argument is completely useless that it would be a danger for me to have the well. This new information is the basis of my appeal, and I ask you to meet with me and your lawyer to explore ways to correct this injustice quickly, as my 65-year-old handicapped tenant, whom had been displaced because the water has been shut off to her home, and I need to get this well connected as soon as possible. So I'll hand out the handout. And if you look that over and get back to me if there's any way we can resolve this in a meaningful way before going to court.
Thanks, Reed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Online, I see Maeve McBride.
This is just a process question or comment. I think with the Zoom bombing, my friend Andrea was also kicked off the Zoom and she's not able to rejoin. And she was planning on making a comment. Does anyone know how she can get back on, or can she be invited or something?
She can go right back to the link and we'll get the request. There is no one waiting in the lobby right now.
Okay, well, she said it won't let her back in, so I don't know. I'll ask her to try again. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else online. Is there anyone else in the room that, oh, Irene, come on up, sorry.
Good evening, Irene Renner, 15 Thrush Lane. This is a follow-up on the comment I made the last time I spoke during public to be heard. It's about the Planning Commission's decision on the zoning change requested by the state of Vermont. I urged you to watch the Planning Commission meeting of October 9th. I hope you have by now, and if you did, you'll see that as the Planning Commission discussed a brand new request from the state aimed at appeasing the commissioner's concerns as well as issues raised by the public. That request, you'll recall, was to approve just a single zoning change, and in fact, they changed the preferred site. The Planning Commission discussed that new request for a mere 24 minutes. No one pulled up a map to look at the neighborhood. And as the Planning Commission chair said, this is the first time in 14 months that we've been able to discuss this among ourselves. Truly astounding to me. How are decisions being made here? The DRB, when it considered Amazon, one of its members, and the DRB is a companion board to the Planning Commission, not the same board, obviously. One of its members asked about how many letters were received for and against the Amazon proposal. There were a number of letters submitted for and against the zoning change requested by the state, the original one. Due to the aggressive spam filter, any tally of those letters, of course, is probably under counting either and both of the yes and no letters. What I did was I tallied how many letters came from unique correspondence, because we saw up to 4 or 5 letters coming from opponents, which I think skewed people's perceptions of just how many people were uniquely against that proposal or for it. Approximately 100 letters in favor and 100 letters against. But the contents of those letters were very different. As you may know, there's a national organization that does not believe in incarcerating women, and they've had boots on the ground here for over a year and paid staff working against this, and misinformation being put out at elections and on street corners and at people's stores. Their form letter was submitted by 2/3 of the no correspondence. 4 of those no letters came from out of state. Fewer than 1/4 of the letters that were either neutral or against the zoning change came from Essex residents. On the yes side, every single one of the 95 letters that were received was uniquely written. Not one of them was a form letter. 51, more than half of them, were from Essex town residents. I'm here to tell you that the data show that just as on a number of other issues that we've faced over time here in this room, a board was swayed by a persistent, vocal minority that manipulated the facts and pressured our appointed volunteers to make an unpopular and, I dare say, misguided decision. I hope you will follow up with them. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Irene. I don't see any other hands online. I'm not seeing any other hands in the room. So at this point, we will move forward to our consent agenda. Andy.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you. Andy, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kendall. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Consent passes 5-0, which brings us on to our business items. Business item 6A, discussion with Essex Rescue. Do we have Colleen online?
Colleen, I just saw her.
I am here.
Hello.
Hello. Can you see me? Okay. So Colleen Ballard from Essex Rescue, and doing my in, and letting everybody know how we're doing. Overall, we're doing pretty well. We have really focused on strengthening our workforce in the last year, optimizing our resource allocation, ensuring that we're getting, ambulances out the door efficiently with the right staff on it. And we've actually put an additional ambulance in service and are working on trying to get that up and going 5 days a week for 12 additional hours a day. And we are, it's actually worked out really, really well. And then ensuring our financial stability, and really focusing on getting more familiar with our trends, revenue coming in, revenue going out, subscriptions, what we're seeing for insurance reimbursement. Obviously, with the government shutdown, I'm not quite sure how that's going to impact our Medicare payments coming back. But we found ourselves in a much better financial state this year. And we our request for contribution from the town was level funded for the 27 fiscal year.
Is it specific? Because I have a specific question about the budget.
Yeah, Colleen, are you good with specific questions on the budget?
Sure.
Go for it.
I noticed that your donations and subsidies are way, way, way up.
Sure.
Or is this just for a quarter?
So we were given some very, very, very generous contributions for some for taking care of some family members. One person donated $28,000 to us, and some other families who were successful resuscitations also contributed. So that's a very unusual occurrence and not something that I would expect with any regularity. That was just pure kindness, and we're very grateful.
To follow up on that just a little bit, that's fantastic. And it may not be a popular position, but if you don't build in any kind of an increase for the town this year, would you expect that you might have to build in a larger increase in the future?
I don't anticipate that. Obviously we sat down and worked. This wasn't just a this year decision. I mean, our goal is to only request money when we truly need it. And when I requested these past increases, I was pretty new to the position, and the agency was, we were in a big struggle pattern. There were a lot of changes, and then, coming out of COVID, we were in a very rough spot. I've taken a lot of time to make changes internally to our billing and doing what I can to recover the costs that we can, and decrease any expenditures that aren't necessary. We have hired additional staff with the goal of running our ambulance more. And we have also increased the funding to our capital reserve, which we were taking from to meet our annual budget this was a couple of years ago that we were, when we really asked for these increases. So obviously I can't say with certainty that there won't be an increase next year, but the goal is certainly not to have any planned increases if we can avoid it. We are expecting to be in a good place, meaning breaking even, and continuing to contribute to our capital reserve fund, which is where all of our large, like our ambulance purchases come out of. So the goal is not to increase next year. I can't predict the future, of course, but we are trying to stay on top of this, and so that it doesn't come back that way.
Thank you for that explanation. I just think it's exceptional that in these days of always increasing EMS demand that you're able to bring together such a good budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy?
I just want to say I'm thrilled that you're level funding this year, and congratulate you on doing the hard work that got you to that place that you could do that. And of course, I'll encourage you to continue that trend.
I'll do my best.
But thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Colleen, and everyone at EMS for what they do. My question to you, I know a while back there was a application and development for a new location for the rescue center. I know that fell through for one reason or another. I'm curious if you're looking at that in a new light in the future, or where that project is.
Yeah, so we did go through with purchasing the property, but my primary goal was sustaining the organization and the services that we provide. To be honest, a lot of that has really kind of taken a big pause, because we weren't really in a position to be thinking that we just didn't have the money to put towards any of it. And then with costs increasing, it has become unaffordable. We're open to, looking at other opportunities as they come, but a lot of that type of planning also sits with our board and not with me, as my focus is day-to-day operations. But it is on our agenda to discuss in the, upcoming months, to see, what are we doing? Are we going to sell the property back? Are we going to hold on to it for now? We don't really have any solid plans. And much of that was just because our energy was really directed at ensuring that we can continue to deliver the care that we do.
I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate having such a strong organization and volunteer-led organization. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I just want to say thank you, and I need a reminder. Can you tell us all when the mailings will go out for the donations for next year?
Oh yeah, so our subscriptions should be, we hope, by the end of this week, if not the beginning of next week. The mailings will go out, but we will be turning on the ability to subscribe online. One thing that we did add this year, which is kind of exciting, is the ability to gift a subscription to someone. So there's actually a virtual gift card now that you can purchase and gift to somebody, so they can use the gift card and actually, legally enroll themselves in a subscription plan. But it's something that you can, gift someone to help keep their own costs down, as long as they live within our primary service area. Then they can subscribe.
Thank you so much.
Very
You're
cool.
welcome.
Yes, and Colleen, thank you. We have a hand up online, don't we? Bill, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. And I'm, let's see, I was stuck in the snowstorm, so I came in just as you were saying, are there any other comments? And so I'm wondering if it would be okay for me to make a public comment.
Related, what's it related to?
It's related to the Amazon.
Amazon is a warned agenda item, so you will have that opportunity later in the meeting.
Okay, sorry to disrupt.
Nope, you're good. And I'm glad you're in safely.
Me too. Exciting. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Lorraine, I see your hand is up.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Essex Rescue. We're subscribers. We love the subscription service. And I'm just really happy to hear, Colleen, that will be online, because hopefully that'll improve some of the donations. And I love the gifting. I just think that's fantastic. So thank you for getting that up and running.
You're welcome.
And Cheryl?
Hi, Cheryl from Stick. Thank you so much, Colleen. I appreciate all you are doing for the town of Essex. I too am very appreciative of the gift card, and I had asked about our donations and whether they would go towards assisting folks who can't afford a subscription. And in the past, they said no, it would go to like equipment or something. I forget. But I am wondering, if I do not know of a particular person, can I subscribe and then pay for a gift subscription for somebody who may be going through difficult times and needs assistance? So like, it would be up to you to see that they can't afford it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know people, and yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I hear what you're asking. I think that would be difficult for me. I also don't know per Medicare guidelines that I could necessarily make that that decision, because it would be unfair to other individuals. But let me think about if there's some other way to, maybe, I don't know if it's a lottery or I don't know how we would manage something like that. But yeah, let me think about that. I'm not sure how to do that and not go against our other regulatory stuff with Medicare, but certainly something to think about.
I don't see any other hands up online. I don't see any up in the room. So Colleen, thank you for all that you and your folks do. And if you're not home, I hope you get home safely.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks. Our next business item is a discussion with the Housing Commission. Do we have, hi.
I think there might be some other folks joining online. Hi there, I'm Anna Brulette. I'm the chair of the Housing Commission. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
We shared a memo with you all ahead of time, so I don't want to take up too much time with kind of providing an overview of that, and would love to just kind of hear from you all. But we've had a good last year. We now have full 5 members, and everyone is engaged and participating, which is progress. We have really focused in the past year on getting everybody oriented and up to speed. None of us are housing policy professionals nor developers, so it's really, as you all can imagine, it's there's a lot to wrap our arms around. We also have recently had a staffing transition, so we're kind of getting oriented to some new systems. As I've outlined in the memo, we are really looking for a little bit more guidance, I think, from you all in terms of how you envision the Housing Commission supporting the town with navigating its role in the current housing crisis. I think that we have some ideas of what that could look like, but also recognize that we are low on time, low on resources, and aren't necessarily sure like what our levers of change are. You know, one example of that, I think, is that there isn't any sort of process, you know, for us to be part of the development review process, which I'm not asking for, and just it is hard for us to follow things and weigh in because there's no systems in place for that to happen necessarily. So anyway, just looking for a little bit more, I think, from you all in terms of guidance and how we can be helpful. I think we have weighed in on and submitted comments on things as we are kind of looped in by staff, which is great. And then lastly, I'll just say that one of the things that I think has been expected of us previously is performing a housing needs assessment. And before we take that on for this coming year, which was our original plan, the 2019 version was done with Essex Junction, so it's now both quite outdated data and less relevant for our current scope. But before we take on that, I just want to make sure that it is data that is what we need. And if so, what type of data and what sorts of decisions would that data support? So really looking for a little bit more guidance before we spend a lot of time and resources that we don't have on some of those projects. So I know that our member Carolyn was joining. I welcome any comments she has. And I'm not sure if anyone else joined, but that's all.
Carolyn, did you have anything to add?
No, nothing to add. Thank you.
Perfect. With that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to the board for any questions, input, discussion. Andy.
Anna, thank you for the work that you do. You mentioned that you were looped in on some things, and one of the things I gave you a heads up, I was going to ask you this, was the Tier 1B status, which is being offered by the state to lower the Act 250 requirements for housing development in areas designated by the town. There were 2 areas that were small areas that were designated that the Planning Commission recommended that we approve Tier 1B for, and I know the Economic Development Commission also supported that. And my understanding is that it was discussed by the Housing Commission as well, and there were no objections. Just wondering if you have any other comments about how the discussion went about that, or what the consensus or the feeling of the commission was.
Sure. We have been engaged in several conversations with fellow housing commissions from Chittenden County, and thus have been involved in some of the Chittenden County Regional Planning Committee Commission's work. And we also provided comments. They have these draft housing targets by municipality. So I think I included a link to that in the memo, and I would encourage you all to look at that. I think from our perspective as a housing commission, I think that there are plenty of folks in our community that are skeptical of residential development, and I think broadly, at least speaking for myself and some of the longstanding members of the commission, we are supportive of things that can move the town forward in being a small part of what is needed to get us out of this housing crisis. From my perspective, that would be opting into the Tier 1B areas that they have recommended. I know that that's not necessarily, there are community-oriented concerns that folks might have about that. And I think that, again, from the data that we are looking at as a commission and like the uphill battle in front of us to get out of this massive housing crisis, we need to do everything we can. And from what I understand, this is one tool to throw at the issue.
Thank you. I know that a number of residents spoke in the meeting when we discussed about that, encouraging us not to opt in, and we ultimately did not.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you for your comments of support.
You're welcome.
Shannon?
Again, thank you so much. I think that my first time crossing paths with you was at the soup night, and you got to explain. I know you were relatively new as a commission. I've been really enjoying reading the minutes from your meetings over the past. I think it's very clear that you are beginning to get the train on the track and things moving. So I really congratulate you on that. The 2 questions I wanted to raise to you, one is more of a kind of echoing what you were saying. I really do believe that a new assessment is needed. That data is dated. It's also pre-COVID data. It's also with twice the amount of people that were living in the entity at the time. Now that the city has left us, so I think that gathering the data, I love that you're taking more of a larger picture approach to make sure it's not just gathering data for data's sake. So I'm excited to see where that goes, and I think that understanding our community is really important at first. The question I wanted to ask you about is, being one of the newer commissions in the town, we're going through the process right now trying to put together a handbook, and I'd be curious. I don't believe I saw many comments from your committee when we were going through many of our meetings, and I'm curious, you're experiencing it for the first time. Are there things that are missing, or things that we should be doing to assist with building you up so you have support?
Sure. First, I would just comment on the housing needs assessment piece. I appreciate I appreciate that a data-driven approach is appealing, and just want to name that we don't necessarily have the ability to produce a robust, updated version of the housing needs assessment without some more resources. And based on everything I have read and understand about the housing crisis, I'm just not sure that my question about the data was a little bit rhetorical in that I'm not personally convinced that more data and spending resources to get more data is necessarily the right approach. So just raise that as a point to continue to discuss. I think in terms of the handbook, we submitted, I think, just a couple of comments in this last round of being able to review it. I commented on this several months ago, but we had struggled to receive an opportunity to review it that fell within our meeting time, which I think is like a comment I raise again, in that I think that that's like a little bit of an ongoing issue when we're given opportunities to weigh in on things, timing that around our meeting time. And we typically do meet monthly, so that shouldn't be challenging, but is somehow. And then the second thing, at least one more thing I would say is around that piece of like systems and making sure, like this tier 1B conversation, for instance, it would be great if there was a more regular practice or system around making sure that our comments are heard on that. And perhaps it's best for us to come to a select board meeting rather than submit things in writing so that those are heard. But I think some more intentional invitations would be useful in that regard. And then third, I would just say, I've asked several times from our staff member if there's opportunities to partner more directly with our other commissions. I think that there are a lot of shared goals that we have with the economic development folks, with planning. There's a lot of overlap in the work that we're trying to accomplish. And it seems from a staffing perspective that it's really hard to hold a joint meeting, and there's, as I understand, there's lots of things around quorum, etc. And I respect public meeting law, and it's really hard to get work done without more enthusiasm for some innovative approaches to collaboration.
Certainly. I appreciate that, and what you said sparked something in my mind about your purpose and what is the purpose of the Housing Commission in our community. And obviously I'm glad to hear you're working with almost either a quasi coalition of the surrounding towns or the CCRPC. I think you're really establishing what you want it to be, which I think is great. And I love that we just appointed Lois, and I think it's very clear that we have a wide spectrum of people on this committee, because I think it's important to have many perspectives. The thing that you just brought up to me was you asked about how could you be part of the development review process, or is that a necessary part? When I was on a previous committee, we kind of went through, and our staffer would bring it to us, all of the development review things that might have a conservation and trails aspect to it, and we looked at it in that lens. I don't know if that's how, Greg, this is kind of directed at you, if the staff is looking for opportunities to say, hey, this is a project we'd love to at least bring it to your meeting so you're aware of it, so you can look at it through the housing lens. That's how I would hope that we're using the commission, is that, we have our experts in this area, we have experts in the energy committee, we have experts in these, so that they're all working together to make the best decision for the town.
Sure, and I would say that has been done. I think what I am flagging is that there is often not follow through. So like we will make comments on a project when it is in its proposal phase, and then not hear about it until it's on your consent agenda or something, right? So just wanting to offer that it would be helpful, and I don't know what this looks like in terms of getting things documented or in writing or systematized, but there's just not that, because it's not part of our like clear scope, and we don't really have a clear scope. We're like figuring out on the fly, to your point, like what we're doing.
In a very good way.
But I just, that just naming that's one area for improvement.
Certainly. Thank you.
Ethan?
I kind of have a question for us about the Housing Commission, but is the Housing Commission meeting before the Planning Commission and the DRB monthly, or is it after?
Either second Tuesday?
We are currently the first Tuesday of the month. We are in the process of identifying a new ongoing or regular meeting day and time, in that we have a couple of members who have new conflicts given the return to office order from the state.
So With the current schedule, yes, they do meet before the Planning Commission and Zoning Board, which typically meet on Thursdays. I forget which one's the first, which one's the third. The tricky part is that, especially for the DRB, but the Planning Commission as well, they get the packet out the Friday before their Thursday meeting. So if the Housing Commission currently meets on a Tuesday, and the Planning Commission or DRB has a meeting 2 days later, there's not time to get comments into that packet. Now, typically, DRB has a long lead time for what applications are coming in, but we can look into the timing to try to coordinate that and figure out if there's some way to allow that to happen better.
That'd be great.
Be helpful.
And thank you for all that you do. It was fun to read up on all the literature I got at the community day. They did a great job.
Great. Kendall, any questions, input?
I think she's got it pretty much covered. I would just reference number 3 where she asked, it's a little premature to say if we're interested in pursuing specific models for Upper Main Street, but I would keep your eyes on that.
Great. That is a conversation that we'd really like to be involved in going forward.
And from my perspective, understanding that the prior conversations on the board with the Housing Commission have been centered around, yes?
No, go ahead and finish.
Okay. Have been centered around, it seems as though there's an opportunity for those overlaps and those opportunities for collaboration. An item that we have talked about is inclusionary zoning, which would be a collaboration between the Housing Commission and the Planning Commission to what would work for Essex, what is in the best interests of Essex, as well as conversations around like a housing trust fund. Those have been conversations that we've had at the board level previously. It's kind of chicken and the egg. What data exists? Who has it? How can we leverage it to inform those decisions and what would work best for Essex? I trust the judgment of the commission on that. But just to add some flavor, so to speak, as far as conversations we've had as far as the planning and the direction.
Thank you.
Andy?
Yeah, I was gonna bring up the housing trust fund question comment. I wanted to encourage you to consider asking for that that sort of thing. And I also wanted to mention that an event I was at the week before last was a select board meetup. A bunch of select board members from all over the county got together, and I learned that Winooski just initiated or kicked off a new homeowner equity grant, or I'm not sure if I'm using the right words that they did, but their housing trust fund is used to help first-time homeowners with their down payments. Just wanted to share that there are other communities that are doing unique things with their trust funds.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that's definitely a model we are looking into. It's rather resource intensive, as you can imagine, so it hasn't been first on our list. But I appreciate there's lots of exciting innovation happening in Winooski and other places.
I do see a hand up online. MJSS?
Hi, yes. I don't know why my computer logs in that way. It's Margaret Smith. And I just am hoping that you will consider inventorying Airbnbs, which do put a dent in available housing. Thank you.
I don't see any other hands up online. I do see a hand up in the room. Ken, come on up.
Hi, Ken Signorella. Margaret Smith reminded me another thing that would be great. I drive by one every single day. It seems like abandoned houses, and maybe some sort of incentive program to get them to be unabandoned might be a thing to look at. Maybe that can relate to the housing trust fund as well. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Can I just ask one more?
Sure.
I just had a question. When I read the reports you sent and that link you sent for the low, mid, and high goals from the CCRPC,
yeah,
the numbers kind of shocked me at 50% growth for our community over the next 24 years. Do you know what we're growing presently? And is that, I mean, obviously you break that down in 24 years, it might be 10 houses a year or something. I'm curious, you kind of focused on the mid goal. Could you speak more to that?
Sure. So, we'll see if this loads for me. It's a very challenging, it's a good practice in data literacy because their chart is quite involved, but it does illustrate in the, there's a column called annual historic growth 2000 to 2023. So that does give you the number of units over that period of time that annually, the average annual growth. So that number for Essex Town was 51. I'd have to look at the more, and I'm sure the staff probably have more up-to-date information than I do, but we'd have to look at the kind of most recent number to see if it is swayed at all by the earlier part of the 2000s. But so based on that number, though, we are fairly on track, supposedly, to hit the low without significant intervention. It's those medium or high targets that we would need to make significant changes to our policy or practices to hit.
Okay, thank you. Eddie, or Madam Chair.
Andy?
Shannon, were you not here when we accepted those numbers, or we maybe you weren't? Maybe we saw them before you were on the board, or was it?
This was the first time I've seen a chart.
Regional Planning Commission came to us and showed those, so maybe it was before. Seems to me it was.
Maybe.
I guess I'll look at the timing on that.
Time flies when you're having fun, Andy. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm not sure how long ago that was.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Everybody good?
I would just, based on what she just said, that she probably is better off spending her time on resources, identifying strategies to attract developers, invest in affordable housing, and strengthen partnerships. I think that's probably the best thing you could do, in my opinion.
Okay. I see a hand.
Hi, Irene Renner again. I heard it said earlier tonight that the Economic Development Commission approved the Tier-1B. I don't remember that happening, and I've been to their meetings for 10 years. So I'd love clarification on when that happened. Thank you.
I seem to recall that there was input, but since it was a comment during the meeting, I don't have the supporting documentation at the tip of my fingers. Come on forward.
Hello, Jonathan. Oh, I'll get to the speaker. Jonathan Lang, Lang Farm. I was wondering if you would think you're going to hold a public vote on the 8590 Upper Main Street project.
That is on our agenda after this one, item E.
But it's about other things. It's not about having a public vote to move forward with the funding of the project.
We're talking about the Housing Commission right now.
So I'm a little premature.
Yes.
Sorry.
I mean, we can definitely add a component of that, and I'll allow that
Will it
question
be talked
during.
about at a later date?
So to be fair, there is section in this presentation under this agenda item that talks about public-private partnerships and development of Upper Main Street, and Kendall just made a comment about it. So to be fair, it is relevant to this topic.
The housing component of it, but not a public.
Well, he's asking
vote.
about
public
the process of how there's a proposed idea of the Housing Commission being involved in the town building private housing. It's in the agenda under this item. So he's asking about a vote before any of that would happen, is the way I'm understanding him.
Yeah.
I can't speak for what the board would or would not do. If there was a bond that needs to happen, that has to go out to public vote.
That's the only way there would be a public vote.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't know, like that is a question for the board, and that's not warned as a discussion or an action item as far as a public vote for a specific project.
That will be warned at a later date than if that is to occur.
Correct.
That's all I want to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else for the Housing Commission? Seeing none, Anna, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Next on our agenda is a discussion with the Police Community Advisory Board. Do we have, we weren't sure if they were going to be here this evening.
I do not see Gwendolyn, unless there's
Okay.
anybody else who's here for the PCAB. We will look to reschedule that one as well.
Okay, if somebody pops on later on, if it's okay with the board, we'll circle back around to that one. So PCAB, I'm just putting a circle around that, which now brings us, since we took off Planning Commission, discussion about draft plan to provide matching grant funds for infrastructure design at 8090 Upper Main Street.
So this, as you may remember, and I'll turn it over to Karen momentarily. The town was approved for a Northern Borders Regional Commission grant to do infrastructure design at Upper Main Street. The Select Board accepted the grant. Staff promised that we would come back to you with our plan to come up with the funding to do the match. It's a $500,000 grant. It's a one-to-one match. So the town would be on the hook for $500,000. The total project is closer to $1.5 million. So the town would be coming up with about $1 million in order to get that $500,000 match. If, as you've seen in the memo, we've identified some options, seeing this playing out over the next probably 3 years or so. That's kind of the overview. Karen put together the specifics, so she can speak to the details.
Hi, Karen Adams, Deputy Manager. So I worked with Greg and Dan, our Finance Director, excuse me, to develop the possible list of funding sources here. And so I don't want to read exactly through the memo, but just for context for folks listening and who may not have read through the packet, a couple of notes about the project before we get into possible funding sources. So the $1.5 million project to do the design work associated with the public right-of-way up at Upper Main Street. And so that includes things like the roadway, stormwater, sewer, water, landscaping, other infrastructure that would be located there. $1.5 million to complete that work. It's anticipated to take 3 years. And so if you break that $1 million down into each year, we're looking to come up with $333,333 each year to meet that match requirement. And so as well with this match requirement, this is a project or a scope of work that would be put out to bid for engineering services just to make sure the community is getting the best value that we can for this work. And there will also be an outreach campaign sort of run parallel to this in order to continue understanding the community's will to develop the site and in what sequencing. So in order to get to the list, I just want to talk about how we are looking to move forward. So this is a draft plan for you all, looking to take in your comments and return to you with a formal plan. And as you can see, I think we've chosen 11 different possible options for funding sources. In years 1 and 2, we would propose the monies come from a combination of the Municipal Complex Capital Fund that exists, as well as the Water and Sewer Reserve Fund. This originally started as a water and sewer utility project, and that was the original pledged match source. So we're sort of splitting down the middle for the first 2 years. And in the following years, I'll do a very brief list here. Additional funding sources potentially could include a local option tax, additional municipal complex capital monies, interest revenue, undesignated capital monies. This is a sort of reserve fund that we keep within the capital fund just to ensure that we are adequately funding our capital needs. There's also an assignment from the capital tax that could be used for this purpose. There are fund balance assignments potentially that could be considered. There's grants that staff will be continuing to apply for that could be used as the source of match. There are also impact fees that would be eligible for use on a small portion of this work. There could be operating budget allocations, and water sewer, I mentioned earlier, has a significant fund balance, which could be borrowed by the general fund if needed. There's also the potential for donations. We don't have a donation policy currently with the town. It's something that the Select Board wanted to explore as part of their work plan this year, and that's a possible source for future match monies. There's also one thing I wanted to note in here is that staff is considering a local option tax and will be discussed under the next item. So just to put that out there, that there's another item in there that will get more into what's eligible and what those possible revenues could be. So I'll pause there for any questions.
This is a discussion item. So any questions, Ethan?
I got just a quick question, but I just wanted to make sure everybody's. Could we go to the back to the memo? The top part, it is different than the previous meeting's presentation. The numbers are the same, but the breakdown of where the first part of the money is that not different? Is it not rewritten?
Which part?
The memo.
Which part of the memo?
Rewritten from last week?
Yeah.
This has not been touched
this week. Okay. Okay, so I just wanted to throw some quick points. The money has to be committed by January 1 of 26. Is that correct, or we lose the grant?
We have 1 year from the date it was accepted, which was in March of this year.
March.
To basically request a notice to proceed to move forward.
So do we have an exact date on that? March?
I can look into it.
Okay.
I don't.
So March of 26.
Mhm.
And then my second comment is going to be beyond the was it 10 or 11 measures listed here. Is it correct that the town would have to put forth the plan in approved form of payment, which is currently $452,400 from the water sewer reserve, $213,933 from capital, $100,000 from interest revenue, and then there's a $233,667 shortage. So in order for the town to move forward with this grant beyond the other 11 funding measures, you would have to commit this money in order to secure the grant by March of 26. Is that correct?
I don't think so.
So you could tell them that you could come up with any other funding. You don't know how you're going to fund it, but you can come up with other funding that's acceptable to accept the grant.
When we accepted the grant, we provided documentation that match existed. That's what our funder is concerned with. It's up to you all to determine how that match is comprised.
Okay. And then my second point to that is that the capital projections in here have not been approved yet, and the capital balance is only I didn't write that down, but I think it's $107,000, $118,000
For the Upper Main Street?
for municipal complex currently in the capital budget. I think it's 118, maybe 107, somewhere in that range. So the prediction of the $213,000, that's kind of a presumption from an unapproved capital plan that hasn't been approved yet by the select board.
Can you tell me where you're getting 213?
From capital?
The first year of
133,333 from 27, and then from 28 there is estimated balance of $100,000. So it's actually more.
Right, so the
I don't know.
estimated starting balance in fiscal year 27, so July 1 of next year, is 135,000. So we are proposing that in fiscal year 27, we spend 133 of that as match. And then future years, you're absolutely right. There would need to be monies put into that fund to create this.
Right. And so where does the extra money come from now? From the current balance in the municipal complex line item? Where does it come from 107,000? I got it on my phone, unfortunately. I'm not going to pull my phone out, but it's 107 to 118. How does it inflate to 135.96?
I will have to confirm with our finance director, but I think it had to do with interest that we earned.
So interest is being directly put back. It's not coming into. We're not counting interest revenue on our total capital. We're taking percentages and automatically assigning.
As part of the capital budget in fiscal year 26, it was noted that interest would be applied to this capital fund. I can't speak to what amount that is precisely, but I believe it's more than we had anticipated.
Okay. But my question is about the process. So is the process taking percentages from a predetermined percentage and automatically assigning to a line item without select board approval? Or would that still be a presumption that the select board would appoint that much capital interest to the line item? Because if you pull up the town report from last year, the numbers don't match. That's the problem I have with it.
We can look into that, and again, since this is discussion, we can
These are points.
come back with some more detail.
Yep. It's the purpose of discussion, get it all out on the table. Any other discussion, thoughts, feelings about what's in the memo? Kendall?
I think it's a really good memo for putting forth a plan to ask the residents, should we proceed ahead? You can always get an extension on an NRBC grant if you couldn't get it done before the year is up. But I'm struck when you look at here with the following memo about the lot, how much you would raise with that would pretty much cover everything that's in this. And I'm also struck that all the money in here, you're literally robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're pulling it from all these other places that need the capital to fund something that really hasn't gone to the voters. So I've heard enough about that from enough people that really before you do any kind of money allocation or anything, there should be a question, in my opinion.
Andy, did I see your hand go up?
Briefly. If Kendall's done.
Yeah, I'm done.
I'm sorry, can I ask a clarification question of Kendall?
Yeah.
Are you thinking of something like an advisory vote or a definitive vote?
Well, I mean, we've got a whole plan of what could happen up there, more or less. And now you've done an excellent job of figuring out where you might find some money, as well as a huge option with a lot that would cover basically everything to start with. So I think that is a very good start for a proposal for the voters. I mean, we've done a lot of groundwork. This was a big part of it, was how would you actually fund it? And I just, there are options to fund it that wouldn't include a significant amount of revenue from the town. And I think that should be explored. It should really be talked about, because this is the kind of thing that I think people that are opposed to it are opposed to it because it's expensive. When you talk about $100 million project, you need to have a way to fund it. And you need to think, well, is it going to come from my taxes, or are there really options that the town could do this, save money, and not cost the taxpayers significant funds? So I just think this is a great segue to really start talking about getting formal approval to do the project, because we don't have formal approval. So that's my 2 cents.
I just want to comment with regard to capital funds. The voters don't, or residents do not vote on the capital plan. The select board does. The residents vote on a capital tax rate. And so the implication of them improving the capital tax rate is that the select board then decides how to spend it. And so I know there are shortfalls and there are trade-offs with any movement we make in capital funds, but there, in my view, does not need to be any vote to decide how to shift capital funds around beyond the select board. Again, they've approved a rate, and there's no question that they're ever asked about approving a capital plan. It's the select board that approves that, and so it'll be up to a select board to decide where and how and whether capital funds get shifted.
Ethan.
I just have a quick question for staff. Do we have any information on exact numbers on the last year, let alone 2 years, for water sewer failures that needed to tap the capital reserves?
You would have to speak with a public works director or finance director. I'm happy to get that information for you. I don't have it.
I did a rough estimate from last year and the year before, just
Okay.
just on Route 15, and you know, there was also some problems over from Maple Street, and the numbers I put together were just over $1.2 million. The capital reserve, the water sewer reserve fund, which is made for emergencies, upgrades, infrastructure, any of those things, is currently just under $2.5 million. After, correct, am I wrong on any of that? Please correct me. If we take $500,000 from that, that puts us at $2 million, as it's stated in the memo. We're 2.5 years away. It would be just over 2.5 years from being completely out of money if the failures continue at the rate that they're currently happening at. So while the voters approve the capital, the select board, and the select board approves the capital plan, I don't think it's in the best interest of the select board to spend emergency funds on new infrastructure for buildings that do not exist. And it wouldn't even be the infrastructure, it would just be the plan to put the infrastructure in, leaving us with insufficient emergency reserves for our water sewer. And that's $452,400 that's in this proposal. I just wanted to share that.
Can I offer that the 450 that you're noting is not included in that 2.5? So it's not undesignated. So it's not included in the undesignated reserve. So it's in addition to that 2.5 million, but I hear your point. I also want to follow up that prior to the capital budget being adopted, the amount that was in the municipal complex fund was $38,911. Excuse me, and the board approved a dispersal of $87,585 of revenue towards that fund. That's a total of roughly $126,500. So I need to find out where the additional $9,000 is coming from. There's a note in our spreadsheets from the finance director that it was additional ARPA interest revenue, which historically has been assigned to that fund, but I'm not sure the mechanism of how that would need to be approved by the board. So it's the 135 is sort of penciled in there.
So 126 is the current balance in the line item.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that was from the town report that was sent out, or is that updated numbers after that?
The annual report would have been for last year, and this budget decision was made in January of this year, so it wouldn't be included until next year.
So that was fund balance. I'm sorry, that was a fund balance assignment.
No, it was from interest revenue associated with
From
ARPA
interest
monies.
revenue.
Yeah.
No. The $70,000 or the $80,000.
$87,585 of revenue to this fund was approved as part of the capital budget. It's associated with investment income from ARPA funds accrued through September of 24.
In January, we made that decision.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was only, what was the balance before?
Around 39,000.
39,000.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had that picture. Information from the town website that's not any of those numbers. But I'll have to bring it back to a different meeting.
Any other, Shannon?
As the newest member of the board, it's very clear I'm jumping into this, and there's a lot of history here. Just for clarity, the purpose of the discussion tonight is just to give direction to staff to further come up with a plan or strengthen this memo, or what are we trying to accomplish tonight?
We are discussing the draft plan that's in the memo to provide matching grant funds.
I can read the memo.
Whether there's something additional, whether there's something that you're opposed to, for the purposes of staff firming up, gathering more information, and bringing back to us a more firm plan. that we can look at a future time.
And the deadline is that March date you were talking about when we have to have, yay or nay, correct?
Yes, although you'll note in here, as Ethan had pointed out earlier, within the 27 recommendation for funding, there are also suggestions or requests for allocations to be made within the capital budget. So we're bringing this to you at this time to get a sense of whether that is going to be acceptable, so we can propose a capital budget that doesn't have surprises in it. So yes, March, but ideally sooner.
Well, budget season and everything is obviously this is going to be a regular topic of conversation that we have amongst the select board, I'm sure. Just for further clarification, when the property was purchased, didn't have any input from the voters. That was purely a grant or a funding we got through COVID funding, or how did that work?
It was ARPA money.
Yeah, that was ARPA money. We got just under $3.3 million from for ARPA money. We did some surveys. We got public input as to how to spend that money. We looked at some different options. The opportunity, one of the select board's goals from a few years back was to look at acquiring property for a municipal complex. We took the feedback from residents. We brought it to the select board. I'm forgetting the date, but I remember we had a public discussion about it and sort of said, combining these two goals, staff's identifying, looking into properties within roughly the Route 15 corridor that might be able to host a future facility, interest in using the ARPA money to pursue that. The select board, I think there was not a ton of comment at that meeting, but what we had, I believe, was supportive, if I remember correctly. Then after that, the select board had some more discussions. Staff did some legwork. We homed in on the property that has since been acquired. Because it was ARPA money, it was not local taxpayer dollars. There wasn't a sense that it had to go out to vote. And the select board and staff felt confident that based on the input we got through a survey, through the engagement with the community around how to use that ARPA money, that was a useful or a desirable way to use the ARPA money. So that was used for site investigation, acquisition, legal fees related to that.
Great. And just continue on. I see your hand, but I just wanted to.
It's up to her, though.
No.
I believe I still have.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
You
of
do.
course.
You do.
Hearing Kendall, hearing Ethan, hearing members of the community, and John Lang who spoke, has there ever been, besides a survey, an opportunity for the town to input where they feel or really get a litmus test on this?
In answer to that question, it has been on multiple select board agendas, and it has been a topic of discussion about a municipal complex. It's been sort of a chicken and the egg. Like, we need a plan before we put a cost to it, but we need a cost to it to get final approval, and we're kind of veering off of the agenda item. But that's kind of what we've struggled with historically, is like we need these details for how much and the overall cost before the board historically has felt it would be appropriate to really put something in front of the voters.
Okay.
Does that answer your
No, that's
question?
helpful. I appreciate it.
Okay. Andy?
I recall that one of the early proposals for how to spend the ARPA money was to buffer the tax increase from the separation. And part of as feedback that we got from the outreach was people wanted something more permanent than that. They said, don't use it to just buy down the tax rate. Please use it to buy something lasting. I also recall that we had a bunch of open houses or workshops. I participated in some of them where we had staff members, we had members of the public, we had fairly large effort went into coming up with the plan for what to do with the property once we purchased it. Yeah, 5 people made a decision to buy it, but there was a lot of input that went into changing our mindset from tax relief to permanent purchase and build.
Shannon?
When I went to some of those open houses last year, it seemed that there was a very clear design. And one of the options towards the bottom of this memo talks about possible sale of lots. From the memory I have, it seemed like every part of the parcel was either wetlands or taken up by what it was going to be. Are there actual ideas of what we could sell off, or what are you thinking of that?
Yes, that would be the housing components on the property that are identified as part of that plan. But I do kind of want to refocus this on the matching funds for the grant that's warned.
I mean, I think
on
that
the-
is part of the funding source, isn't it?
Well, I mean, not for this specific grant about infrastructure planning. But yes. But yes. Ethan.
So I'm just listening here, but what I'm hearing is the consensus is the 87 people who responded to the initial survey and the roughly 357 people that attended the open houses. It gives us authority to spend $1.5 million without asking. And don't hear me wrong here, because the way it was just stated a second ago was that we need this number to know the number. We don't need this to know the numbers. We know the numbers. We paid 200 and actually it went over 280. It was supposed to be 280. It ended up being just over $300,000 to an outfit who drew us the master plan of 8090 Upper Main Street. We know the cost. This is actually implementing the first phases of building. Okay, this is not figuring out the cost. This is committing to putting in the infrastructure at the property via the plan, the master plan. So we are, and at the bottom of this memo, it clearly says that the memo is for discussion. After select board feedback, staff will develop a specific proposal that can be, that can be considered for approval at a future meeting. My understanding of that would be that we pick an option if we're okay with the spending of the $1 million that's proposed here, other than the $233,000 shortage. And at the next meeting, the select board would take a vote and approve it. And unfortunately, to the residents of this community, we're spending $1.5 million. Yes, $500,000 is grant match, but we have to put the money up front to start the project. We're making that decision. We are building. We are putting the plan together. We're getting the infrastructure blueprints. We're going to know where we're putting the water, where we're putting the sewer, where we're putting the electrical. We're going for the project. That's what this is. This is a commitment to build. This is not a propose to find out the estimate. We know the estimate. This is implementing the.
Well, no.
Andy.
What you're implementing.
Sir, we're not at public comment on this item yet, but we will get there. Andy.
We cannot commit future select boards. We have our little piece that we have right in front of us. 3 years from now, when this project is done, there could be 5 different people sitting in these seats, and they could make a decision not to build something different, to build the fire station first, or build the library first, or rearrange anything that they want. So this does not commit anything other than the money that's in this project, because a future select board will have to make those other decisions. We cannot bind them to a future, anything in the future.
One comment that I did want to make about the matching grant funds that we have had a conversation about previously is, and I know that this would need legislative action, but the potential of TIF funding, which essentially, the community would, and keep me honest here, the community would front the money as development occurs. That development would essentially pay back on those funds. So it's a financing mechanism for the public good that is set up in the legislature. I believe it used to be that there are 6 granted across the state at any one time, but it's been a while since I've seen the details and process for that. I think it has been a discussion in the legislature recently around what that focus is, but I would like to see some sort of a tax incremental financing component or potential for this, understanding that if the design plan and infrastructure, if that goes for, you know, parcels that are to be developed, that would be part of the TIF plan that those TIF funds could be eligible for. So to Andy's point about future select boards, should the infrastructure already be in place, and that's an if, nobody has voted on that yet, I just want to make that clear. Having infrastructure in place already would make parcels more attractive to buyers, whether that's just for those parcels, whether it's for the you know, subdividing the property, so on and so forth. So regardless of what the decision is, I believe that if you build it, they will come in that line of thinking. If the infrastructure, if the property is already served by municipal sewer and water, it makes it more attractive, ergo it would make it more desirable to buy, whether that's pieces or part and parcel, so to speak. Really long way to say that I'd really like to look into TIF funding. Andy.
Just a question for clarification on the scope of this project. Is this for the entire, all 4 phases, or just the first phase? Because I thought we weren't intending to build the infrastructure for the lots that we were intending to sell. So that's where.
Karen's gonna
Yeah.
pull it
Yeah,
up.
can I share my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And folks, I do just want to go back to our rules for the meeting. I'm going to put myself in a little bit of a vulnerable position here. I do have a condition where if there is any background noise, it makes it very hard for me to hear what the board discussion. So I would just ask that folks be respectful of the board and others who are speaking, and not having side conversations, please. And Karen's pulling up a map.
I am. Okay, we can see that. So, apologies if you can't see my cursor. Thank you. So I'm sort of hovering over the intersection here. I believe this is Billy Butler Drive. And so this portion of the roadway, I'm sort of following up by what is on the screen to the right of Maple Fields. And then up this roadway, providing the entrance to the fire station. And all the way over here, down this road, which is another connection with Route 15. And I believe this back, the parking lots and such associated with the green, that's the municipal offices, the library, but not this back road that I'm sort of highlighting that would feed into that second roundabout, and then not this back portion of the site that would lead to the area that's sort of designated for rec with a pavilion and trails. So it is not the infrastructure for the whole site.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so I'm not sure that you would get any TIF benefit from roads that are only serving municipal buildings. But I guess that's a question to ask. Because we don't pay ourselves taxes.
Oh. Ethan?
I just have a question for you, Madam Chair. If there's doesn't appear to be a consensus on the board to continue to put staff effort in this, when will that decision be called? When will that question be asked to the board?
I would think that when we have a firmer plan that comes back to us, that would likely include potential action on that plan. I'm guessing.
Okay, because we've had a couple meetings here recently where members of the select board have said, you know, there's let's call a question right now because there's no doesn't appear to be or there appeared to be a favor of one side or the other. So I'm just curious how much special time this will get before the consensus of the board is taken.
My answer would be the same. I would
Okay.
think
So-
the next
So it
time
depends
that
on the
we
topic
see-
is your answer?
Yep, just let me finish.
Okay.
I would think that after this discussion about the draft plan, when that more finalized plan comes back to us, that it would likely include potential action on that plan in order to move forward or not matching grant funds for this item.
Even if there's no consensus to spend the money.
Well, we've already indicated that we want to accept the grant and that we would. We already said that we would allocate the grant. This is just how. So that I think that would be a conversation for next time.
Yeah, and I think it's
as far as
important.
what that would consist of.
I think it's important to bring back the conversations and minutes from previous topics where said thing happened and a question was called too prematurely before additional information was presented to move on. And there's no logical order of how that decision was made besides the topic, because it just happened 3 meetings ago and a meeting before that also, 2 in a row, where a member of the select board brought forth to the chair and said, can we get a consensus right now and make a decision? And you directed the board to take a consensus or to call a vote. And action was taken at that moment, twice. So I just wanted to bring that up, and I will bring forth the information from those events to the next
I would
meeting.
love to have a conversation with you offline about that to get more information.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yes. Andy, I saw that your hand went up.
No, yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. So it feels like we're past the discussion on the actual memo, so I'm going to ask for public comment if there is any, specifically on the draft plan to provide matching grant funds. So if there is anyone in the room, you can raise your physical hand. If you're online, you can raise your virtual hand. And I did just see one pop up online. Lorraine, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for whoever drafted this. It's good to see some numbers finally. I do have concerns with the lead option, which looks so tempting, the local options tax, which was visited in 2009 and voted down when we were looking to merge. So we're now post-merge, and we're just on the heels of increasing the capital gains tax, or capital plan tax. And times are pretty hard. People are, Aunt Dot's is pretty busy these days, and I agree with Ethan, and I think that we should go back to the town and fill out the town before we put in more staff time to accepting. It's great that it's a matching grant that is 500,000, but now we have to put in $1 million. 500,000 to me would be tempting, but now that's $1 million. I'm like, oof, that's a bit much at this time, especially when we have Section 8 housing that's looking like it's about to expire as well, and we're going to going into the winter, dealing with some homelessness again. It just, to me, just sends the wrong message right now to what people are feeling out there, seniors, single parents, disabled people, people who live on the edge. I think this sends a wrong message. My parents in the Junction just got their new water bill, and pretty hard to see. My parents are okay, but I know other people will see that the sewer and the water went up. Both the rates went up in this quarterly bill, and not only did the rates go up, but the minimum amount used went up. So now people who live alone are now paying for more the service that they don't even get, because we keep adding to this infrastructure problem, and yet we don't find ways to fund it. And when I look at competing interest, it seems to all too often come down to the infrastructure problem. And I also have concerns too in terms of the housing, and I do agree with Shannon, this housing is a component of agreeing to this or not, because that is another possible funding mechanism as we go along that's not been included in this layout. So I'm sorry that wasn't included. I think it should be included. I know it's not specific to the to what this grant would apply to because it's not building that part of the infrastructure, but it would be something that could potentially help pay down some of the cost of this proposed venture. I think probably it'd be a good time, and I understand what Andy Watts is saying, certainly about, we already voted on this. This is, we're the ones that are elected. This is our duty. But this is not like a typical ask. This is a humongous ask of the people. This is a very unusual thing. This is not apples to apples when you say, but we vote on this kind of stuff all the time. This is a huge thing that's going to cost us for a long time. It was a gift to us. I'm glad that it went into real estate because it's a way to hold on to that money. I knew we had a deadline, but maybe it is time to look at the priorities of, does the firehouse need to be done first? And maybe start to parse out some of those needs that we need. I know the library is overburdened. So maybe we can also look at a way to kind of parse this out and chunk it down one at a time. We don't need, although I would love a municipal campus, we certainly have municipal offices we can use. I also don't see included in this maybe sales of other buildings or even other lands. And when I looked at the lot taxes, one of my fears about that is because the majority of lot tax is so regressive. And most of the people are going to hit with another 1% tax from buying online. And many people buy online. Certainly the change in habits of Americans, I think it's now most people that buy, many people are even buying groceries online. And another big concern for me, for people who are already hit hard in their pocket. I was looking at Burlington in terms of their funding and how they did some of the things, because some of the local option tax is interesting to me. One of the things that Burlington did was they implemented a 9% tax on gross receipts for Airbnbs. And I'm like, okay, well then Airbnbs, someone doesn't live here. If they're staying at the Airbnb, that makes sense. Someone's using services in our town. So we just love to, when I see just a lot kind of put out there for $1 million, it doesn't really talk about the impacts to people already living on the edge. I just don't think this is the right time for building a beautiful big complex when so many people are hurting. I would love to see us parse out the needs and understand what needs are needed first, and somewhat attack these from different, just kind of chunk down if possible. And thanks for all the work. I mean, I'm sure that took a lot of work. And also just to me, the other thing in terms of the interest that we're earning, I would love to also make sure that some of our other funds that we have that, I know some of them have to be liquid and we don't necessarily want to put them into CDs and things, but certainly in terms of if we have any trust funds that are sitting there, that those are also maybe put in high yield savings accounts and things like that, so that we can keep capitalizing on the money that's sitting there. My other concern about a TIF too, that I just learned recently and I didn't realize, was that for our educational fund or public educational fund, the TIFs aren't necessarily a benefit to our educational fund because it reduces the monies that our educational fund can earn on interest that helps our educational fund. So just a cautionary tale that, TIFs, although they sound great and wonderful, there are some downsides to TIFs as well. Thanks, and sorry for being so long-winded. Thank you for your time.
Lorraine. Cheryl, I see your hand is up.
Really quickly, I just want to echo what Lorraine just said about the TIFs. I feel it's money that should be going towards education fund and instead is going towards, we should be protective, especially in times like these, of our kids, of our future, of those who have the greatest need. I want to leave it at that. Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl. I don't see any other hands up online. Are there any, Mr. Adams, come on.
Yes, my name is Walter Adams. I live at 60 Indian Brook Road. As you know, I've come to visit a number of times. I would argue with the board that the correct solution to this project is to stop working on it entirely. First of all, you're not building anything. You're doing the design for approximately $13 million worth of infrastructure. So the idea that after you finish that, you could sell the land for $7 million and maybe this building someday and the library someday means that you still $6 million in the hole because you only got $7 million to build almost $14 million worth of infrastructure, and you haven't built any buildings yet. The buildings are another $80 million as currently proposed. The fire station is 7 times bigger than the current fire station. The library that's proposed is 10 times bigger than the current library. The town offices are 3 times, and you're building a 18,000 square foot community center that we don't have any equivalent to. It makes no sense to spend money on design of something that the town cannot afford, at least in its current envisionment. In the mid-90s, early 2000s, I spent 8 years on the planning commission. Back then, we limited housing to 60 units per year in the sewer district and 10 houses outside the sewer core. And if you heard what the community service person was saying, the average over the last 20 years has been 51 houses. So Essex hasn't changed much since the 90s. So we're not South Burlington. We're not Winooski. We're not Milton. We are not growing leaps and bounds and would expect to see our tax rate, our ability to tax people go up enough to afford most of an $80 million set of buildings. I'm sorry, just doesn't work. So let's stop spending money on this project until somebody can prove that the whole thing makes any sense, because it doesn't. And right now the town is bringing in about $16 million in revenue. At least that was the last time I saw one. And if you want to spend $1 million, that means you're spending 6% of the revenue for that year on something. Now, granted, you're stealing it from someplace, you're borrowing it from someplace else. But I sat through any number of budget hearings where somebody said, oh, we have to give the money to the water board, and we have to give the money to the fire department, and we have to give the money to these people out of the capital fund. If we don't, we're going to fall apart in the world. Well, all of a sudden now we can borrow that money? Well, what does borrow mean? All it means is you're going to come back to me in 5 years and say, oh, I'm sorry, that fund just doesn't have any money in it because we borrowed it and now we need it back. So we're going to raise your taxes to get it. Is what it means. I'm sorry, that isn't the way the world works. Shouldn't work. And you need to start saying no more often than you currently are. Because this town is soon going to be even more unlivable in terms of the cost than it already is. So remember, if you would work as hard trying to make the town more efficient as you're working trying to spend this money, I think the town would be a much better place than it currently is. When I was on the planning commission, 8 years, we got sued by one entity in 8 years. You know who that was? It was the select board. Sued us. Didn't like our solution to a problem. Why would the select board sue the planning commission? What sense does that make? Thanks very much.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comment? Ken, come on up.
Ken Signorello. I had the opportunity to go to South Burlington recently and attend a meeting in the lovely, brand new, huge, impressive South Burlington Town Hall / library. It's amazing. I hear people complain about the taxes that are funding it, but it's impressive. But the one thing I noticed on my way back to my car as I was walking out behind one of the lovely barriers that helps with the ADA accessibility. There was a homeless person there, huddled up in a blanket. So I'm thinking the priorities might be a little bit off. And I think we need to think about our priorities here as well. I'm astonished at the reluctance of our select board to put questions to the voters. I've got some experience with this. And it's frustrating. You get a half a dozen people that come and say, hey, how about putting this question on the ballot? Nothing. You have to petition to get it done. Surveys are nice. We did a lot of outreach for the town plan. But then the town plan was voted on. The difference. I sometimes wonder when I see these additional surveys come out. There was just a recent survey that just came out. Town survey, I forget what it was for exactly. But I keep on wondering, well, why is this survey happening when we have the town plan that we voted on? Maybe it's because we didn't like what was in the town plan and we might get a different answer. I think maybe that's the problem. We're worried about the answer you might get. If this train gets on the track and gets started, a future select board is going to say, we've got a train on the track. I'm not sure we can stop it now. Yes, they're not obligated, no question about it. But you got a train on the track and it's rolling. Money's flying and moving. And it's hard to stop that train once it gets out of the train station. So I'd urge you to feel comfortable by asking the voters, do they want to see current and or future tax dollars committed? $1 million just to get started. That's just the entry fee. That's the cover charge. It's going to go up from there. And once we get started, it's going to be hard to stop. So I'd urge you to put the question to the ballot, formulate something. Should the town commit current and future tax dollars to developing a town plan, a town center? And I would suggest to you that we're still paying for this one, or the renovations on it, along with the police station. Maybe that's a good timeline to be thinking about. I think we have about 10 years left on that bond. That might be a nice time to start thinking about it. In the meantime, if the town voters think this is a good idea to be investing tax dollars, future tax dollars, maybe you put it into the capital plan and you allocate money over the years and you save up for it instead of borrowing for it. Might be an alternative way to go. So I'd suggest thinking about an intelligent question to put to the voters. Even if it's only advisory, at least then you'll get a sense as to whether the time is right to be moving on, taking the train out of the station and getting it on the track and spending $1 million in order to get started. Because that's really what it boils down to, as Walt was pointing out. It's just the beginning. And once it starts, how do you stop it? Because then you got the sinking fund problem where, we've already committed $1 million. We really can't stop now. That becomes a problem. So that's my suggestion. Come up with a question, put it on the ballot, give voters the chance. Just so happens that March is the date for the deadline. That's when town meeting is. Just saying. Coincidental possibly, but get it set up, ask the question, then you'll know whether or not you've got the voters behind you and the blessing. And I think that would be a smart thing to do. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Rachel Lazat, I see your hand is up online.
Thank you. I have a lot written down and I'm not exactly sure which direction I want to go, but I appreciate seeing the numbers. It is really strange that it's taken this long to see that information. And I just feel like the select board is really taking some big leaps here. And that's been happening since the beginning. I feel like it's been assumed in the public messaging from the get-go that this project is happening. And that was kind of a surreal experience attending those meetings at the new conference center there that were held for the public. And I attended those and also just felt like the project was assumed to be happening. And so we weren't asked about how we felt that funding should be attained. It was like just about these rosy, glossy ideas. And I appreciate that that's also good to have, but it was just a very surreal experience. And you didn't ask really for input from the public. You just ran with the idea that Essex needed this town center. I feel like it's a bit of a feather in the cap for the select board. And I'm not sure that I disagree that this is a quote unquote nice to have, but given that there was a massive misinformation campaign that festered during the merger process era, I just don't understand why the town wouldn't focus on transparency to pursue this project, because I think you're going to have these same public arguments that we went through during merger happen again. Thanks.
I'm going to be short. I say ditto to everything Ken said, and also, sorry about this background. I don't know why it's on. I also think that when you commit to the beginning of a project, even though it's another select board coming up, there's one of the public mentioned a spent cost bias, and you just think you have to keep continuing. If you spent 2 million on a project and it's partially done, it's more likely that the next select board is going to just keep on spending more money. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. I'm not seeing any other hands up online. Come on forward. Okay, no, that's fine. Come on forward.
My name is Pam Scherner, and I live at 247 River Road. I was listening to all this conversation and building up anxiety. I'm feeling it right now. And I turned 66, and I've been planning on retiring at some point. And I've been terrified to retire. And I've done a really good job over my lifetime. My husband has done a good job saving up money for retirement, making sure we can pay our bills. We've paid off our mortgage. We paid off our cars. This year, my property taxes were $12,100, and that's before the reappraisal, which I won't hear the value of my house until June of next year. Hasn't been appraised in a long time, so we think it's very likely that it's going to go up $7,000, $8,000. The multiplier in Essex is 2.8%. That's $2,800 on every 100,000. If it goes up $8,000 at the current multiplier, that's basically $3,000 for $8,000. My property taxes could be close to $20,000. So when I listen to the conversation about spending more money that we're unsure about, where it's coming from, how long is it going to do, how much is the initial investment, I get even more anxiety, because even though I'm told by the town assessor, well, after all the houses are appraised, when the houses go up, the multiplier will go down. I mean, makes sense. But even if my house is worth $700,000 and the multiplier goes from 2.8 down to 2.2, it's probably not going to go below 2, because Williston's 2.1, why would it likely go under 2? So it might end up at 2.3 or 2.4. That's only $400 on $100,000. So ultimately, by next year, to live in the town of Essex, I'm going to be spending $17,000 or $18,000 on property taxes.
Yeah, so I do just
I'm
want
not complaining about property taxes.
Yeah. No, I just want to.
My point is
we have some great resources about what assessment does and doesn't do, and I just wanted to go through a really it's an oversimplification of how it works. But if your assessed value goes up,
yep,
the budget you're funding is staying the same. The tax rate goes down. So
I understand that.
By and large, you shouldn't see a $7,000 to $8,000 increase in your tax rate, because it's a calculation. It's A times B equals C, and again, oversimplifying.
Well, except for the house. The house has the bottom line is the value of the house is incredibly low right now. It hasn't been appraised since 2007. So the fact is, since 2007 till now, it's likely going to increase. So the bottom line, whether I'm paying 16, 17, or 18,000. I paid 12 this year. I'm gonna pay more, because that was 12,000 on a $400,000 house. It's no longer $400,000.
Right.
So it's probably gonna be. My point is that I get really anxious about how I'm going to afford to retire, and how I'm going to afford to do things, because in Essex it's really expensive, and the prices just keep going up. And so I just get anxious when I hear about spending like this without more people being involved in that decision-making. And I just wanted to share that it's really expensive to live in Essex. I lived in Charlotte before I moved to Essex, and it would be cheaper for me to live in Charlotte than it would for me to live in Essex at the same value of house. And so I just want to point out that this creates anxiety. I know I'm not the only one that feels that, between healthcare changing, the cost of groceries, all the costs related to living. Look at the price of cars. I just spent $1,200 on tires. And then I was told I needed to have brake pads and brake rotors done, which would be another $900 because of the rust, because it's Vermont. So I just wanted to share that I think I'm not the only one that feels a lot of anxiety about the cost of living in Essex. And these are the reasons why. So I get nervous and anxious when I hear about spending more, potentially unnecessarily. So.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Sharon, is your hand still up from before?
I think she's good now.
Okay, Sharon, if
No, thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that.
so I'm not. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just seeing a lot of comments popping up in the chat. If you want to have those on the record, do ask that you raise your hand and speak up, because we don't capture those comments in the minutes.
Okay, thank you for that, Greg. All right, so with that, I'm going to say we're good with discussion and move on to our next agenda item, which is the discussion. Again, this is just discussion. There is the potential request for committee input on a potential local option tax. Greg, do you want to?
Yeah, sorry, there was a comment that did say that Lynn Smith is not getting the option to raise her hand. So I suppose if anybody else is having that option, let us know in chat and we can try to call on you. Do you want to go back?
Okay,
to Lynn
yeah.
Smith?
If you're having technical difficulties, Lynn, if you want to go ahead and speak on the prior item, please do so.
I have to agree with the comments that I've heard. I campaigned for the legislature in 2024. I knocked on literally hundreds of thousands of doors, and everybody to a fault was concerned about their taxes and the cost of living and in Essex. And I feel like it's probably not wise to start borrowing already allocated tax money and to pay for something that is super, super long term, and I think a little bit pie in the sky. So I just would like to agree with the others who are saying that I just don't think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Is that good? Okay. All right. So with that, we will move forward to 6F, potential request for discussion, potential request committee input, potential local option tax. Did you want to introduce this
Yeah,
one?
I'd be happy to speak to this one. Again, Karen Adams, Deputy Manager. So one of the goals in the fiscal year 26 work plan for the Select Board was to investigate increasing non-property tax revenues, such as a local option tax. So staff has been working to collect information for you, and that included sitting down with the Department of Taxes to learn more about exactly what the local option tax revenues could potentially be for Essex and other logistics around adopting a local option tax. So just to recap the memo briefly, there are 4 options for what can be taxed under a local option sales tax. It includes retail items, meals, alcoholic beverages. These are the ones served in restaurants. Anything that's sold, for example, in a liquor store would be captured under the retail sales. And there's also rooms. And so any combination of those are acceptable, one or some, with the exception of alcohol. It can't be selected on its own. It needs to be selected in concert with the meals tax. That's a requirement of the tax department. So the sales and use data for Essex that we have available is for retail sales. I'll go into that. That is for physical sales that are happening in Essex. or from businesses in Essex. It does not include online transactions. And so very rough numbers indicate that in calendar year 2024, approximately $104 million was spent in this manner. 1% of that amount is around $1.04 million. So that would be the 1% sales tax revenues from that number. Moving to meals and alcohol, meal sales in Essex were around 13.8 million. That would 1% of that would be 138,000 roughly, and then 1.66 million in alcohol sales within restaurants in Essex translates to around 16,604 in potential revenue. There's no information available on rooms data. This is because the tax department doesn't report when there are less than 10 contributing entities. That's the case in Essex, so we don't have information about that. And another piece that I wanted to make sure to mention is that the state retains 25% of all revenues that are collected through local option taxes. So as you look at the chart that's sort of at the top of your screen here, there's the potential, again, rooms is unknown, but the potential for $1.194 million in local option tax revenues, just based on those numbers. And if you continue to the sort of bottom half of the screen, it goes into how much of that might we see. And so the number above, you can see that 1.194. I've also, staff decided to estimate online sales to be approximately 25% of those retail revenues. We don't have information about those online transactions, as the tax department indicated. It'd be very challenging for us to collect that data. So a very conservative estimate would be 25% of the business happening in person, also being conducted online. And then the 25% owed to the state would be roughly $363,000. And so you end up with $1.09 million in estimated town revenue. Just a couple other pieces for folks to consider. There's approximately 30 communities that have adopted the retail sales lot, 31 that have adopted a combined meals, alcohol, and rooms tax. 4 have opted for just a standalone rooms tax, and 1 for the standalone meals and alcohol combination. Also looking at neighboring communities, Colchester, Essex Junction, South Burlington, Winooski, and Williston have all adopted the local option tax in all 4 of the categories that I've listed, with Milton not adopting a local option tax of any kind. So those are some background pieces of information for you all to consider. Happy to answer other questions that the board may have about a local option tax or what it might mean for Essex.
Board discussion, questions?
I'll go.
Ethan?
Can you pull that back up? I want to make a good point that I was thinking of over the weekend when I saw this is added in. But I don't know. I'm sure everybody understands, hopefully, what a local options tax does. But not only do you pay to live in a community, but then you're then taxed at every part of the community that you live in. And the unfortunate reality is that wealthy people can avoid local options tax. They can shop in other communities. They can order online. They can have things delivered from communities that don't have the taxes. It's a very regressive tax, and it affects those who work and live in our community. One of the things that really strikes out to me is, if you scroll down to the towns that have the local option taxes, I want to go over a couple things. Colchester doesn't have a big retail base. The little bit that they do is over by Mallett's Bay, yeah, and there's a little bit by the farm road there. There's a Dollar General and a couple other things. Okay, so a lot of Colchester's revenue is from liquor. They have renounced bars that are very busy, and a lot of their revenue comes from liquor sales. Essex Junction just adopted theirs. Their numbers really convoluted because it took a lot of money from us because they were charging local option taxes at the Lowe's and everywhere else, so nobody really knows what the accurate number is. We'll see that at the end of this year. Now Milton's pretty smart. They're not running a local options tax. You're going to see Milton's one of those communities that's currently inviting new businesses. Retail markets are thriving. There's a lot of mom and pop shops that are opening up underneath right there on Route 7. Now, I want to bring you to these next 3 communities, and if you've been traveling at all recently, there's something very important to notice. South Burlington, Winooski, and Williston have all had and Essex Junction included. There's a large number of vacancies in their retail plazas. And the reason being is that people cannot afford to pay extra taxes. So when you go somewhere and you go to a store and you have to pay $49 for a pair of basketball shoes because there's added taxes on, and I can order those same shoes online for $42, unfortunately, there's going to be a decline in recent, measures of in-person shopping supporting small businesses. You look at the Tree Plaza in Williston, that's my favorite. Half of it's empty, right? None of those shops are in business anymore. You have across the street, you got the 99's Plaza there. There's a bunch of businesses that are selling out in there. There's restaurants that have hung in there. There's, I think, 4 large chain restaurants that aren't locally supported businesses. They aren't owned by people in the community. They're corporations. And the whole purpose of bringing this all up is that if you penalize those who live and work in the community, they cannot support those who are running businesses in the same community. So this overtaxation, you go to work and you pay your tax on your paycheck, then you pay your tax to live in the town, you pay the tax to drive on the roads, and now you got to go and pay for everything that you get at Ace Hardware, everything that you get at the foot store, the bookstore, Phoenix Bookstore over in the plaza. You want to stop over to Mimo's and grab some food? Well, you're going to get a tax on that too. You want to get a beer? You're going to get a tax on that. When does the taxing stop? And I've really put a lot of thought into this. I've had a lot of conversations with people. And my opinion would be that if you waste a bunch of time on this, it is foolish. I would put it right to the voters, and they're going to tell you loud and clear how they do not support this.
One clarification though, if you live in a municipality that has local option tax, even if you order online, you still pay local option tax.
Right.
Okay, because it sounded like you were saying that if you order online that you don't have to pay local option tax. So
Yeah, I can get a P.O. box in any community in the state of Vermont.
What's that?
I can get a P.O. box in any community in the state of Vermont.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify.
So I can get a
make
P.O.
sure,
box in
'cause I
Milton and
didn't know
order
if I
online and
misunderstood you,
not
but
gonna pay
I
taxes.
just
That's how
wanted to-
wealthy people beat the system, unfortunately. It's been proven with all local options tax research and data collections.
Any other board discussion, questions, curiosities? Kendall?
See, I come to this from the completely different option, in that this is one of the last largest untapped revenue sources for the town, where you can take advantage of other communities. I think people lose sight that it's a penny. I can make a penny squeak just as loud as anybody, but I also know that pennies add up. And when you look at the numbers here, we are definitely missing the boat. If you pay $60, it costs you 60 cents. Now, granted, you all pay taxes, but you might pay 60 cents, but there's probably 10 or 20 or 30 people that come from elsewhere that are going to pay that same 60 cents. And I think that if you give enough information like this to the residents, you're going to see that there's a large untapped resource that you can take a penny at a time. Our restaurants, our cideries, all those places, they don't get national recognition just from Essex residents. And yes, as an Essex resident, you would end up paying a penny more here and there, and it will add to your tax bill. But I would offer that it will reduce your taxes substantially more on a per person basis that you're getting from the other places. All you got to do is look at what some of the other communities are getting and doing with their local option tax. And really the point is just put it out there and ask the residents in a town. That's all. 2009 was a long time ago in a lot of different ways.
Thanks, Kendall. Shannon?
I enjoy concurring with my friend over here, and I apologize, I'm getting a cold, but if you could pull up that map that was linked into the memo, I just think it's interesting to see, I don't think we have to do everything all at once. And I hear exactly what you're saying, Ethan, and I think it's valid. But when I saw this map, and I've been also talking to people and different things, I don't feel like anyone's not getting a coffee at Uncommon Grounds because they want to, or they're choosing to go there instead of going to Chef's Corner or somewhere else in Williston. They're going where it's most convenient. They're going there, and I really think it's worth exploring. I'm not saying we have to pull the trigger. I'm saying I would love to, after the last discussion we just had about how people's wallets are feeling thinner and thinner, this is a way to bring additional revenue into the town that's not upping your mortgage bill or things like that. I think it's a great thing to look into and explore. And I would love to, work with the Economic Development Commission. I'd love to work with experts. I'd love to look at the data. And I think that this memo was wonderful in that it broke it down and said, we could do meals and rooms. And rooms is kind of that X factor. We don't know what it is. And I respect that that's how the state goes about it. But if you're staying at Essex, maybe 0.5% of the people that are staying there are just going out for a nice night to get away from the kids. But most people are from out of town, if not out of state. And that's money we are not getting our portion for. And I think it's really, again, worth exploring. I don't want to, make Essex less affordable to be here. I want to make it a place that we can give some relief. And just like the Essex Rescue was able to flat fund, I'd love to, us as a select board, and whether it's this year or many years to come, be like, listen, let's take a breath. Let's not have to continuously spend more and more and more. And this is a way we might be able to do more, but with a little bit more money coming in from another resource.
Thanks, Shannon. Andy?
This has been a bee in my bonnet for a long time, the question of whether people use an Essex or an Essex Junction mailing address, and the reliance on the retailer to get it correct, especially if they're an online retailer. It was just a few months ago that we finally got Google to not charge Essex residents the local options tax. But that was only in their cloud services. When I bought my Fitbit from them, they charged me the local options tax. We fixed it in one part of Google, but not in all of them. Even though I had an Essex mailing address, but there are many, many, many people who still use the Essex Junction mailing address, and if they order something online, and we have a local option tax, and Essex Junction does as well, the retailer's never going to know, and the money's going to go to the junction, likely, unless they do it correctly and use the application that's on the state's website. So I think if we do this, we have to have a massive education campaign for folks in the town, asking them. You can't force them to use Essex as the city name on their mailing addresses, so that they don't get charged a local option tax that ends up going to a different municipality. It's been 3 years now we've been fighting this, and we still, large online retailers like Google don't get it right. So that's one thing. The other thing is the question of how is the question worded on the ballot? Is it shall the town of Essex enact a local option tax, or do we have to define how we're going to spend it?
I think.
No, I was going to offer, we asked the state about that. They don't have any language requirements, and you don't have to identify what it's to be used for in the ballot question.
Okay.
Certainly you would want to do that, but it doesn't need to be part of the ballot language.
Okay, that was my understanding, is that you right.
Just to add to that, the tricky part, I think the state told us 1 or 2 examples where they had allocated it specifically towards a certain thing. And if that certain thing doesn't come to pass, I'm trying to think of the example. I think it was up.
It was Killington,
and maybe it was
Montgomery.
Montgomery was the other one where they had allocated it towards an infrastructure project that was supposed to cover a certain part of town, and then they shrunk the amount of region that was supposed to cover. So the state said it can be done. Those are the couple of examples. They pretty much advised to just keep it open-ended, be upfront about where you expect to spend it, anticipate spending it, or how to use it, I should say. But it can be done either way.
I also wanted to offer, we asked the state about the zip code. situation, and they suggested the 9-digit zip code is going to be the key to
No, that is wrong.
solving
That is not correct. That's
Okay.
not correct. It's not correct because the state no longer publishes the list of 9-digit zip codes that are subject to we have a letter from Craig Bolio, the former tax commissioner. We probably got it before you had joined the team. But the correct way to do it is there's a address finder on the state of Vermont, the tax department's website. You put the address in there and it tells you what municipality it is in and whether it's within a tax jurisdiction that requires the local option tax. So the 9-digit zip code is no longer a correct response. So if they're telling you that from the state, you should be telling them that they are misinformed as well.
Okay. I will certainly pass that on. It was not only the purchaser, but also the entities transmitting the monies to the state. So if those retailers are making sure they're identifying themselves as Essex Town businesses, at least that end of the transaction should hopefully be clean.
Right. Recently, there was an article that included on VT Digger that included Sam Maz's farm stand, which is a wonderful place. I love going there. I spend my money there whenever I can. The caption said that they were in Essex Junction. When asked, they said they insisted that they were in Essex Junction. They don't collect any tax, but there are many, I think, when you look at Front Porch Forum and you see somebody's address in there and it says Essex Junction, you know they're not in Essex Junction, they're in Essex Town. There are so many instances where people don't know the difference. Haven't so that's just, I think I'm going on too long on it, but it's a bee in the bonnet. And then the other question, the reason I asked the question about how the question is worded, I understand the limitation that if you make it for a specific item in the question, that the need for that goes away. Like if you finish paying off your bond, if you say you're going to pay a bond with it, then what happens? Do you then lose? Does the tax go away? But the point is, if you use the generic question of should we enact, each and every select board can decide how that money is spent. So we cannot guarantee that the money will be spent. We can't say it's going to lower taxes. We can't say it's going to fund an infrastructure project. We can't say, because every select board is going to be able to decide how that money is spent during the budgeting process. And the other challenge around that is it changes every year. And so I don't know how you account for that in your budgeting. How do you account for that in the budgeting? The amount
of local option tax?
Yeah.
We would talk to Williston, Essex Junction, South Burlington, Colchester. My sense from what I've heard from them is it's pretty steady, goes up a little bit. It might fluctuate depending on the economy to some extent, but I think they have a pretty steady baseline.
Okay, so you just make an estimate, and then if it's over, it's fund balance. If it's under, it's a revenue shortage. Okay.
Ethan.
I got a question for Greg. Williston hasn't seen a decline?
I don't know that for certain. I'd have to look into that.
Relevant information.
Shannon.
Just in response to Andy, couldn't we, in putting forth the question to the public, say we want this to go to capital to help? I mean, that's a part of the very specific thing that's always part of the budget. We always need more money there.
Yeah, you could if you make it a specific generic item, but if it's you can't make it if you make it a specific project,
sure.
The project finishes it, then
no, that's a valid point.
But it becomes, it would be in that case an additional capital tax. But yeah, you could do that, I think.
Something like that.
Yep. Any other discussion? Thoughts from the board?
I guess I would follow up on Andy's question, is that the state wouldn't be involved at all. They wouldn't care as far as where the local option tax was coming from. They're part of it.
I
would think they would want to correct that.
I would think, if I can expound for a moment, being someone who does data matching and cares about data quality and process, it seems to me as though the state would not want to rely on self-reporting, but they would check the address of the business against that online finder to make sure that they are verifying where those monies get attributed to, and then they get remitted back to the valid municipality, rather than just trusting what someone writes down on a form with their submission. But that's just my own personal thought and feeling about how they could continuously improve their own process. Andy, your hand went up. But I know that's not the case right now.
It's going into more history here, right? When Essex Junction first proposed the local option tax, and I raised the issue with the state, they said, "We know what we're doing. Don't worry about it." And they sent a letter to all businesses saying, "Verify your address." All those people that thought they were in Essex Junction because the post office said you should use Essex Junction as your mailing address, regardless of whether you're in Essex Junction or Essex, thought they were in Essex. So, and then you have business owners like Hannaford is not a Vermont company. They have no idea the difference between Essex and Essex Junction. Lowe's insisted for 2 weeks that they were in Essex Junction. So yeah, it did not work well.
Yep.
And right, the businesses fill out the form themselves and they choose where they send the taxes to.
And I apologize, I shouldn't have expanded on wanting to fix the state's processes. That's not what we're talking about here, but I digress. Any other board?
Yeah, I was just gonna say
comments
that
or-
the state of Vermont doesn't care because 25% is 25%.
I see a hand up in the room if the board is good
sorry.
for.
I should say that there is an individual that I've been working with the tax department that is very responsive whenever one of these issues is found, and so we are addressing them as they're found. It's not part of my job description on the select board, but I've been doing it anyway.
Thank you.
Yes.
And so, yeah, the Google one was a battle.
I remember that, and thank you. Kendall?
I just have one quick question. It says that the select board, does staff looking for a recommendation? Will we do that after public comment or?
I would like to go to public comment just because this is a warned
definitely.
agenda item. So I'll do that now if there's no.
Yeah.
Okay. Any comments? Betsy, come on forward.
Yes, we had these discussions during the merger about the local option tax, and people still don't know where they live. And it's a remarkable thing, but it's real. And in actuality, in order to get a new zip code, it takes an act of Congress. Not in Vermont. You're downtown in D.C. getting this. And Bernie used to be, I don't know if he still is, he was on that meeting for the post office general. He was on that committee. And I said, can't we just ask him to zip that right in there real quickly? Because that's the best place to go. Because that's the only way we're going to have a separate taxable area that we get what we're supposed to and the city gets what they're supposed to, having it. And I think that if we are thinking about doing a local option tax to make all the businesses happy, because it's mind-boggling to them how they are and where they are and what's their name and where do they live, we should pursue this in getting a new a new zip code, because that is the important thing. And possibly we should keep the 05452 because that was the original town, and the people who separated from us should get their own. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know something about that. Can I respond to that or should I not?
Sure.
I looked into that too, and Bernie did allow Essex to be used as a city name. All prior to that point, if you used Essex as your city name, your mail had to be manually verified, so your mail was potentially always delayed if you chose to just use Essex with 05452. And zip codes are attached to buildings. And the Essex Junction post office 05451 is too small to handle all the mail that goes to Essex Junction, so there would have to be a new building built, and that is not gonna happen. So I don't think there's any possibility of a new zip code.
Okay. Any other comment? Ken?
Hi, Ken Signorello. I have a few things to offer you, I think, that might be useful. Colchester is an interesting story. Their local option tax gets put into a fund, and any use of that fund has to go to the voters. That's how they handle theirs. It's true, zip codes are not the perfect mechanism for identifying the municipality that you're in. They're zip codes, not municipality codes. They sort of conform, but not perfectly. A great example, there's a little bit of Westford that's in our zip code. Just a little bit, just a little jog. So that's why zip codes are problematic. And number three, Williston. I got a chance to do a lot of analysis on local option tax a few years ago. Did you know that Williston funded 1/3 of its budget with local option tax at one point? A few years ago now? How could that possibly be? There aren't that many people in Williston that would be paying a sales tax that would fund that much of their budget. Why do you suppose that is? Anybody got a guess? Because it's not Williston taxpayers who are mostly paying it. Of those 5 municipalities that were on the screen, 4 of them are on the interstate. Exactly. So they're benefiting from outsiders paying a significant portion of their local option tax. We are not that fortunate. So when it comes to the sales portion of a local option tax, we're going to be stuck carrying that load mostly, town residents. And it's regressive. The less money you have to spend, the more is going to be going to a local option tax. You can only buy so many things when you're a wealthy person. So as a percentage of your total income, your tax is lower. As a percentage, your local option tax is lower. That's probably the most important thing to think about. We are not positioned well to have outsiders pay a local option tax unless you focus on the things that we do have that people are coming for. We have 2 actually, it doesn't. It's not, I think it is subject. If I'm not mistaken, the cannabis is subject to local option tax. Am I correct about that?
For the full
Yes,
sales.
under the retail sales.
Thank you. They're coming for that. We have not 1, 2 breweries. We have a cidery and we have a distillery, all subject to the alcohol tax. You don't need to buy alcohol. So that's one thing you might want to think about, provided, of course, we can make sure that every single one of them knows what town they're in. Then you have the rooms and meals. We are also becoming a bit of a recreation destination or a resort destination. So that's another possibility. We have a lot of Airbnbs. I've done a lot of door knocking, so I know we have Airbnbs. These people that are in these houses, they don't live there. And so rooms and meals, particularly on Airbnb as well, would be another way to get some local option tax from outsiders. And that's where you need to focus. You gotta have to stay away from the sales tax. We're just not logistically set well to be able to carry that load. Our town residents would have to carry it, and that's just not right. It's regressive. It's not an appropriate thing for, I think, to do from that standpoint. And even if you do go with the rooms and meals and the alcohol tax, I think the Colchester model is a lovely model. It gives you a lot of flexibility. Yes, you're going to have to put a question on the ballot. I'm sorry. But it'll at least get the voters' approval for spending their money the way they want. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. I'm going to go over to online. Gil Allen, I see that your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you. Well, Ken Cigarello, sorry, nicely kind of illustrated many of the things I think I was going to outline. I did want to reinforce many of the things that Ethan said earlier. I agree with him. He made a lot of good points against the local options tax and how it would hurt many of our local citizens. But as a counter to that argument, and something I think that people need to consider is that we are all paying a local options tax. We are all paying local options taxes every time we buy things in Williston, every time we go to Colchester. If anybody has been in the recreation facility in Colchester, and you're a member of Costco, you helped pay for that recreation center. To correct what Ethan said earlier, The last few statistics I could find from fiscal year 2021 is that Colchester reeled in around $2 million through their local options tax, which was about 11% of their government revenue. That's a lot of money. But they have Costco. We do not. But I do think that when you think about where we are with local options taxes, we're all paying them. And we're going to pay them unless we stay completely local. And I don't think we all do. And there are many people that are coming into our town. And I think that the vast majority of the revenue that's going to be generated from a local options tax is going to be paid by non-residents, not by residents. Both through, as Ken pointed out, lots of people coming in to Essex and the outlets to buy weed. Lots of people coming to Essex, the Inn at Essex, for their spa treatments. These are potential sources, and if we could find a way to selectively build a local options tax that brings in outside revenue, as opposed to hurting our local citizens, particularly those on the lower income spectrum, I think it should be considered and given some thought. That's all.
Lynn Smith, you're up next.
I again, I heard over and over and over again within the last year that we are taxed to death. And even though it's a penny, it adds up. And it's yet another tax. And I think we have to start thinking outside of the taxation box. And so I would have to agree with Ethan that I feel like this is a regressive tax on Essex residents. Thanks.
Lynn. Lorraine.
Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, from a different perspective, I'm in the plumbing field, and to Gil's point, that's one of the reasons I actually purchase things online instead of going there, because when it's delivered to my house, I don't pay that Williston local option tax. I hope other people understand that. You can avoid paying the other town's local option tax by having it delivered to your home. And I know that because of where I work. And we have people certainly at my place that will have it delivered to their non-local options tax place. So, because the other concern I have too is that our contractors that go into Lowe's certainly benefit from not having the local options tax, which also, if you applied it to that kind of retail, would also, given the recent increases, I do pricing for our place. And the prices are pretty crazy right now in terms of the commodities and things in the construction world. I would hate to add to that burden of rising housing costs. So if there was a way to slice and dice too, I certainly think it's worth taking a look at how you could carve that out. The other thought I had too, I don't know, maybe our econ development or staff, certainly when I was working in retail, one of the things that maybe you have a business friendly with you, one of our bigger businesses, maybe they would offer to pull a data report that shows what percentage are from out of town as opposed to people buying from town, and what percentage are maybe even buying online. But I would hope, because the state's data is pretty inconclusive in terms of who's buying what where, and so we're making a lot of assumptions. I'm wondering if there's a way we could actually find some, survey some of our local businesses that they could run a report that gives us a certain percentage of how many people are from outside and from inside. I also think, coming off of Lynn's comment too, that we could be more creative in terms of some revenue bearing streams, like the mountain biking is getting pretty big nationally, and we certainly have a lot of people that come from out of town for that. Maybe we can get some data from how many people from out of town from that, what businesses they go to, those kind of things. I know it might be a heavy lift, but I'm thinking from working retail, certainly I don't think it would be hard to get a report out from some credit card receipts to see what percentages are now 05452. I also would hope at some point our state, instead of using a zip code, would also instead use the municipal tax code to apply who pays what to the state. I'm also disturbed too that the local options tax such a high percentage goes to the state as well. That bothers me because it's a state sales tax. So just some points to consider. Thanks.
And I'm just going to ask folks to self-serve your hands. If it's not supposed to be up, please take care of that. Sharon Zukowski.
I'm just going to reiterate that it is a regressive tax, and it's going to if you do the retail sales and online sales, it's going to mostly affect renters who don't get renters and people that are low income who aren't going to benefit from any municipal offset, that we get. And if we have to do it, I would think it would just be on, I hope, alcohol, cannabis, and rooms and meals. I don't support it at all, but I'd hate people to pay that 1%, because for some people, each penny does matter. They don't have any pennies. They're just barely getting by. And I agree with Lorraine that it will increase housing costs too, because many contractors and developers ship literally tens of hundreds of thousands of things to the Essex Lows to avoid that 1% tax. Thanks.
Thanks, Sharon. Ken, come on up.
Karen, did I get that right? Cannabis is subject to the retail?
Yes.
Right.
Problem. And that's something we should probably try to focus on, try to get our legislators to take care of.
I've tried.
Yeah, we need to keep
I
on
have
trying.
tried.
That could be maybe put into the alcohol category. That's a problem. Yeah, that's something we got to.
Alcohol is only for alcohol purchased at restaurants or bars. If you go and buy a bottle of wine or a six-pack at a liquor store, that falls under general retail as well.
That should be fixed too. I think that in order to be able to use it effectively, to not harm our local residents on things that they have to buy, alcohol is obviously not something you have to buy, we need to get that broken out. That's something we should lobby for hard. Thanks.
Thanks, Ken. I see another hand in the back.
Hi there, Rev Baker from Sugar Tree Lane in Essex Junction. Just a minor correction to something that was said earlier, since there was so much discussion about who lives in the town and who lives in the junction. The junction post office is 05453, not 05451.
05451
Just for the record.
is the post office boxes in Essex Junction. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yes.
Just real quick, I happen to work in the business field, and one of the trends that you should be aware of is that you're looking at adding these taxes is that businesses, particularly restaurants, are starting to charge for the use of credit cards. And so you're going to have a customer, even from out of state, that comes in and says, what's going on here? I got a credit card fee, I got a this tax and a that tax. And our experience is that, similar to, I'm not going to go out of my way to go to a different coffee shop to get a coffee just because there's a few pennies more. But what our experience is, I don't go 4 times a week anymore. I go twice a week. And so who's suffering is the business, because I don't have the return business because of these little charges. And it oftentimes isn't that I gave them an extra penny or an extra 5 cents. It's the buildup of, my gosh, another price on top of the price. And I hear it every day. I'm in this world every day, and I hear it from customers, and I hear it from out-of-state people who just can't believe how Vermont, stay at a hotel, and you spend $1,000, you get 11% in Burlington, then you went out to dinner in Essex, then you went to Williston, and the comments are tax on top of tax, and you have to be mindful. I mean, Subaru now, if you don't pay with cash, you have to pay the 3% credit card fee, but they give you a cookie before you leave. And the restaurant in Richmond, I mean, it's more and more, we're considering it, adding that charge to the check because we can't afford the extra charges that we're being feed as a business. So just keep that in mind when you think about that. You're not the only one with that idea of adding on to checks. Oh, and then, of course, if you go to some restaurants, they're charging you the tip for the staff. I mean, I know it looks good, but I just had my hair done, and I had a choice of 20, 25, or 30% tip. Now, I could have hit other and paid less, but, you know, you're standing there in the middle, and I paid a 25% tip on a $200 bill. And I don't know if we're gonna think about adding a tax onto hair salons. Those are all choices people make, or nail salons. But it's getting pretty expensive out there to even enjoy a good dinner or stay at a hotel or use your credit card.
Thank you. I do see Lily Kellogg online, and then after Lily, I'm going to bring it back to the board to finish up the discussion. Lily, go ahead.
Hi, Lily Kellogg. I live at 148 Road. I noticed there's a lot of discussion about cannabis as possibly being taxed as like some type of alcohol thing, and I just want to remind people that many people use cannabis as a medical intervention, and that's one more thing that's getting an extra tax added onto it when we're also looking at everything else that's getting piled on as far as medical bills are concerned. So I would urge people not to look at that as, oh, we should tax that because people that are using that are using it
For fun.
for funsies. It's something that really helps a lot of people for their medical needs. And as somebody that does have a medical card for using it, I still pay taxes on it, even though I have that. And that's just another, I just want to remind people to think about that before just adding that on.
And just to be clear, it's that breakout would need to be done by action of the legislature. We would not have the ability to like say, hey, we're only going to apply it to cannabis. That would need to be done at the state level. So with that, I'm going to bring it back to the board. You know, there was a potential for request for committee input, but I just want to kind of bring it back to the board to have a discussion, and if folks want to hear from our committees, give that opportunity.
Can I, sorry to ask one more question?
Yeah, go for it.
Greg, recently, within the last couple of years, we did a survey about local option tax, and my recollection is that the results were about 50-50 split, and a lot of people raised the question of, well, what are you going to use it for? If I knew what you're going to use it for, I might be more likely to support it. I just wanted to say that because we haven't said it in this meeting. I recall that. Beyond that, then, I would like to make a motion that the Select Board ask the Economic Development Commission to put together a data-driven response to the question of whether we should ask the voters the question about enacting a local option tax for the town of Essex.
Thank you. Thank you, Shannon. Motion, Andy. Second, Shannon. Ethan, did you have discussion?
Yeah, do we want to put in there by January 5th, 2026?
I would be comfortable adding in a time constraint.
That's the recommendation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sorry. January 5th.
Okay, Shannon, are you good with that?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, Kendall.
That would give you time enough to get an article if you wait that long until January.
Typically, it's the end of January when we need to warn the budget or ballot items. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Andy Shannon, 5-0. Our next agenda item. Update about status of appeal to environmental court by Scannell Properties and Ellenbrook Development. I did have, there was let me pull up the memo here. I did post some things and I responded to a whole lot of email. So I just want to level set and provide the update here in our formal meeting. As you're likely aware, the Essex Development Review Board denied the Scannell application for an Amazon distribution facility. It is currently being appealed to the environmental court at the state level. As such, this process is taking place in the courts and not at the Select Board. The town is monitoring to ensure that our zoning regulations are properly interpreted by the court. You will notice in the memo that the town attorney has made appearances on behalf of the town of Essex at the environmental court, so the town attorney is engaged in that process. This item is an update as, again, this process is taking place in the court and not at the select board. And that let's see here. The purpose of this agenda item was just based on some of the comments that were received, the emails that were received. Folks felt like we were taking action, and that is not the case. As you see, this is just an update item. There is no action warned on this. It's my understanding that the schedule in the environmental court was just set on Thursday. So that process should be moving forward with scheduled meetings. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's all I had for an update. If you had anything additional.
No, I think you captured it. For anyone who's looking at the packet, as Tracy said, this is the one of the items that was added for this meeting, and it's just a brief update. You can see the schedule as to what's happened thus far with the the scheduling order that came out on November 6th.
Okay. So with that, I know I also did say, like, the board will not be discussing this because it's not warned for discussion either. It's not warned for action. It's not warned for discussion. This is an ongoing legal matter, so the select board will not be commenting on this. However, understanding that there are folks here who likely want to provide public comment, I will open this up for public comment. Given the large amount of emails that we've received already, I'd like to open it up for up to 30 minutes of public comment specific to this agenda item. I do ask that Essex residents speak first. And if you have already spoken on this topic at the DRB, or if you've submitted your thoughts via email, please allow those who have not spoken to speak first, just to make sure that we can hear from everyone. Yeah, and also, understanding that brevity can be important. If you feel the same as somebody else, go ahead and just say ditto. Or if you feel like expanding within that 30-minute time period, that will be allowed. So if you're in the room, again, physical hand. If you're online, you can raise your virtual hand. I do see someone who has their hand up online. So Bill, we will go to you.
And I'm not a resident of Essex, so if you want to go to somebody else, you can do that.
Perfect, thank you.
No, sorry about that.
Nope, you're good. I appreciate the being forthcoming about that. Is there anybody in the room or online who wants to speak about this update? Come on forward.
Are you counting resident businesses?
Sure.
Hey folks, my name is Joanna Grossman and I work for Phoenix Books. Thank you so much for hearing us talk today and everything you're doing as, public servants, the residents of Essex, and both the residential residents and the business residents are really lucky to have you. And we really appreciate that. I did want to sort of clarify something that I think might be confusing to folks, that absolutely, this decision is being decided by the courts, but the select board decides if you're going to continue fighting, right? So I just want to make sure that we're clear and we're transparent about that to the public. So I think that for a lot of us, we're concerned that the town of Essex is not going to continue fighting, and that's what we want to hear, is that you're going to continue to defend. Sorry, I have asthma and it's kind of bothering me tonight. Your appointed DRB decided against permitting Amazon to build this facility, right? And your constituents are talking to you really loudly and clearly that they oppose this. And the business community all around Vermont, all around the region is scared about this, right? We're worried. You guys just talked very eloquently, many of you, about how important it is to support your local businesses and how local taxation could affect us. And we're actually not here to fight the local option tax. tax. But we're just saying, help us out, support us, right? Like right now, if you think about it, Vermont is losing so much federal funding, right? And all that federal funding goes to support state and local governments, small business grants, our nonprofit sector. And it's so important right now to be shoring up the Vermont economy. And the folks who are contributing to our schools, to our roads, I don't need to tell you guys, you're the select board, right? So so local businesses are paying into the system. And we're also supporting the Essex Pride Festival, our local Little League teams and all that stuff. And so we're asking you as local businesses to support us and to, help us and give us a leg up so that we can continue supporting you. It really means a lot to us. And we're like, being a part of the community really means something to us. Phoenix Books has had an amazing experience being a part of Essex, and we want to continue to do that. We want all our neighbors in the Essex experience to be able to continue doing that, and we want our neighbors on Church Street to continue doing that. A lot of them are really worried about this too. That facility is a 70-mile delivery radius, a same-day delivery radius. One of the few advantages that Phoenix Books has over Amazon is that people can show up same day and get a book. So we're asking for your help and your support. And I think your constituents are with us, and your DRB is with us too. So we're just asking for you to help us out. So that's all I had to say. Thank you so much for serving your community. It means a lot.
Thank you. I see Gil Allen online.
Yeah, I guess I was a little confused by the direction that this is taken. And I appreciate I think that was Joanne, right? That was speaking on behalf of many of our constituents. It was I guess it was my concern, and maybe the reason that people brought this to an item of discussion, that the ongoing battle in environmental court could lose its support from the select board, and it's not what I was hearing by the way you framed this in your diction earlier. That basically it's off the table for the select board. This is a matter that is being handled in environmental court and will be settled in environmental court. Is that what we're hearing?
I would think unless there is future direction from the judge involved in the case. But again, I can't really say what the environmental court or the judge will or will not do.
Okay.
I have something to add.
I think it was in the memo, or maybe it was in some of the stuff you've responded to, Tracy. The town, as Tracy said, the town attorney has made appearances at court on behalf of the town. The town's really monitoring the proceedings to make sure that our zoning regulations are understood, interpreted, as we think they should be interpreted, and that the court and the judge can take that into consideration while hearing it. I'm not sure if that totally answers your question, Gil, but that's kind of the approach that the town is taking at this point.
Okay. I think I want to reinforce where people are maybe feeling a bit edgy or nervous about this, in that the Developmental Review Board made it very clear that the request from Amazon was to provide a proper study on the impact on local traffic of this distribution center. And any distribution center, whatever company it may be, that would come into that space deserves a proper vetting of the impact on local traffic and what it will do on a 2-lane highway that already has some pretty sketchy left-hand turns coming out of Skunk Hollow Road. And they basically flat out refused to provide that. And there's some evidence that they already have data and reports and studies at their hands, at their fingertips, that they could have brought to the Developmental Review Board, but withheld because it was self-incriminating. And I think that's why it deserves to stay in the environmental court and find its purchase. And we figure out what their decision is. And I think it's very telling and very interesting that right now it's falling on the heels of a Supreme Court decision to uphold Heinsberg's appeal against Hannaford for not having generated the proper evidence of sufficient erosion and water. No, I'm sorry, water drainage collection systems. Um, the Supreme Court has kind of basically come back and said, you know, Hannaford, you didn't provide the information that was asked for. So they overturned the environmental court. So I think we just need to let this play out in the environmental court and see where it goes from there. Because I think the vast majority of our citizens want to see how this plays out in that court because they know that they're being stonewalled. We are all being stonewalled. And I just want to say that and make my piece. Thank you.
Brian Clifford.
Thank you. I appreciate everything Gil said and Joanna, and my name's Brian Clifford. I live on Tanglewood Drive. And I understand why the board can't comment on things that are being discussed in court cases, and I do appreciate the update and explanation of the executive session tonight. This is my first time kind of following a DRB appeal, and I'm sure a lot of us are in the same boat. So I don't really understand how a lot of these things work, but the thing I'm concerned with is I do know that if we don't stand our ground now, as a town, we'll need to get used to more closed executive sessions, briefing our elected officials on the latest from Amazon's lawyers. That's just the primary conduit for communication between municipalities and Amazon. If we want them to do something, a judge will have to decide whether or not they do it. It's kind of how they operate. They have the lawyers and they budget for that sort of thing. Today we simply want them to go away, but it's apparently more important for them to prove that they can set up shop anywhere they want than to respect our consent and to move along to another town that is begging for them to come. I feel like that's a red flag, and just especially since we've already heard Amazon officials saying we can't stop them because they're here anyway. These are just bullies, and I feel like if anybody listening to me right now has the power to stand up to them, please do so, because it's going to get increasingly difficult to do so in the future. Thank you.
Brian. I don't see any new hands online. Ann?
Sydney Drive. The question that I hear asked of me most often, because I follow this pretty closely, is whether or not the case is going to be settled. That's the question that I hear, oh, the case is going to be settled. And I'm like, my lane is healthcare. So I'm not a lawyer at all, but my understanding is that because it's in environmental court, the case will be decided in environmental court, but it's not as though the parties can settle, because there are litigants in the case who are not willing to settle. So even if the town wanted to settle and Amazon wanted to settle, the other litigants in the case do not want to settle. So the case will need to go through the court system and have a decision, whatever that decision is. And as Gil said, there is that case from March of 2017, the Heinsberg-Hannaford case, where the Supreme Court ruled that the application has to be complete at the time, the record has to be complete at the time of the application when the approval is sought, not in post-construction monitoring, because post-construction monitoring does not allow public participation, because the horse is already out of the barn and there's nothing that can be done about it. So that's my condensed version of what I hear and what I try to tell people who seem really anxious that we're going to settle. I try to tell them, it's the court, they're going to have a process, and the best thing that we can do as the town, is to support that DRB decision, as I said earlier, because it really matters to not undercut. People need to feel like the whole process works. So thank you for your time again.
Thanks, Ann. Going back online, Gil, is that a leftover hand?
My
You
apologies,
did-
sorry.
Thanks. Let's see here. Mary, are you an Essex resident?
Hi, I'm with my sister here. My name is Kevin Collins. I have the upholstery shop on Route 15.
And I live on 7 Circle Drive.
Yeah, my sister lives on 7 Circle Drive. So we are right near the target zone. I love what I'm hearing said. I love what the gal said about supporting businesses. I love the experience I've had where I am. And I feel it is important to sort of share and let others know that have just spoken. I feel so compelled to just say thank you for saying what you said, because like I'm bewildered with the process, and I feel like our social soul and psyche is just being raped continually. And what can we do to stop this from continually happening, these kinds of things? And it's just we're sort of losing our soul as a community. There needs to be, when you grow and you get larger, you lose that sort of that Vermont feel. And I felt that was important to share. So thank you all for saying what you've said. And
Between Amazon and the taxes, we aren't going to have our tourists anymore.
right. Yeah.
So
If you get rid of what's special to being in Vermont, and I'm not sure, maybe these comments are at an odd time in the process, but I'm new to all these happenings here, but thank you for allowing us to sort of share these tidbits of thoughts.
Sharon, I'm going to jump down to you.
Hi there. 2 points. One, it's probably semantics, but I'm hearing the attorney is monitoring the case. Why is the attorney not defending the DRB's position, or is it just semantics? Okay. And then the other thing is, which I've been torn about even speaking about, is the process, and I'm speaking for myself, not as a representative of the DRB. The process of doing the denial letter was disappointing. 4 people voted no on the Scannell application. We had several reasons why we voted no, and staff and the town attorney did not include all our reasons. And one of the reasons that 3 of us out of the 4 were very concerned about was the connection of the dead-end road through Thompson Drive. And that was completely left out of the denial. So I just hope that the town attorney is not just monitoring, but perhaps defending all of the reasons that we voted no on the denial for the Scannell application. And I know this, and I totally understand that this has nothing to do with the select board, but not quite sure where to speak about this. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. Lorraine.
Thank you, Chair. I was hoping to, because I attended, I'm one of the interested parties. I was looking for a stronger letter of support from our staff than what we received. And I'm hoping that our staff would reconsider and add some more support and use more of the town plan language as well. Certainly applies to the 10 criteria. There were a number of criteria that were running through on the ANR that would be very helpful if there was a new draft amended to what was there. And I hope that our town considers that. Also like to reiterate and thank people who spoke here today. I really appreciate the input and the support for our DRB. It was a very difficult process, I'm sure, for members of the DRB. It's very attractive to have certainly a big business like that come to our town. But given the issues around infrastructure and the cost of our infrastructure and the years of building and putting new businesses in and building new houses and continually seeing our property taxes rise. I think there are some faulty reasoning about why we build when we don't align our infrastructure costs with that cost to build. And those are part of the economic considerations that are also included in the town. So I hope that people, again, I encourage people as residents too, to take the time to read our town plan. It is a very good plan. And that is what we're striving for. So I do hope that our staff reconsiders writing some more and adding an amendment to their previous letter. Thanks.
Thanks, Lorraine. I don't see any hands online. So Bill, I think we're gonna move into allowing for non-Essex residents, and just for a time check, we have 13 minutes left of our half hour.
Great. I'll try to be as concise as I can be. And I'm reading from some notes, so sorry if I'm looking down. So I'm Bill Calfee. I run a company called Mighty that's based in Burlington, but serves independent stores and people who want to shop online at independent stores in Vermont. So, and I'm a resident of Heinsberg, to be clear. I grew up in Southern Vermont. I served on the Select Board and the Planning Commission in my hometown, and so I really appreciate your position and your contribution and your long nights, because I've been there, and I know how hard it is. Let's see. I do spend money shopping in Essex myself. And as I said, I'm representing a bunch of small independent businesses and delivery people across Chittenden County, including some in Essex. And these are all people with limited resources. And these are people who are your neighbors. These are people who support your nonprofits. The Rescue Squad was on the agenda today, and certainly they're supported by independent businesses, local housing, local police, local option tax. You talk about independent businesses. Independent businesses pay real estate taxes, etc. And I'll point out that Amazon pays very few of these, unless, of course, they build in your town, and then they'll contribute to some real estate taxes. And just to give you context, Jeff Bezos's wedding in Italy cost $50 million. Italy believes that that's worth $1 billion of economic activity. So we're not talking about just the 6%, or in your case, 1% sales tax. We're looking at economic activity of the hundreds of thousands of dollars that are spent in Essex. Vermonters, just to give you, Vermonters spend about $50 million a month with Amazon. And if that money were spent in Vermont, it would have incredible ripple effects for economic activity. So I'm just hoping that you'll follow your town plan, which I've read and is good, and be part of a movement to keep Vermont money in Vermont. And support all those independent businesses and people who work at the independent businesses and run deliveries for those independent businesses. So thanks for your time and your support of your community.
Bill.
You're welcome.
I see an E. Dunbar online.
Yes, hi there, Tracy, for taking my call on Select Board. My name is Elizabeth Dunbar. My spouse here is Keith Dunbar, and we live at 17 Cedar Street in Essex. We attended the DRB meetings, wrote emails, and applaud the hard-fought, courageous decision of the DRB in terms of the Amazon deal. And we just want to go on record that we hope, like others, that our town select board and lawyer continues to support the DRB and our town plan. And thank you all for your time and work for our community.
Ingrid.
Yes, hi, hello. I'm Ingrid. I live in New Haven, Vermont, and I just wanted to share a small message as to why Essex and Vermont should not invest in Amazon. So, Amazon offers short-term gains with long-term cost. With Amazon, jobs will vanish, automation will rise, and our communities will pay the price. Vermont has the opportunity to choose differently. Vermont can lead with a vision, and Vermont can set itself apart by investing in people, communities, and a future that lasts. Thank you.
I see Cariella.
Hi, Cariel Tabone, 22 Foster Road, Essex. I just want to ditto everything Ann Miller said and hope that the Select Board continues to support the DRB's decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Margaret Smith.
Hi, I apologize. I stepped away briefly, and I'm hoping that somebody mentioned the increase in air pollution with all those added trucks zipping around. And I mentioned to somebody that I think the carbon dioxide level in our air has probably increased. I had very few mosquitoes this summer. It was really odd. Anyway, air pollution can contribute to a number of diseases. I have a great article from Green Times magazine that I get at the newspaper. Anyway, so the long and short of it is pay attention to the noise pollution and the air pollution. Thank you.
And Dwayne Barlow.
Hi. Sorry, can you hear me? Okay, great. Yeah, I just had a question. I got confused by what you said to Sharon when she asked whether there was a difference between defending and sort of just monitoring. I thought that there was a very significant difference between those. One, you're not really the town isn't really expending money on the lawyer. The lawyer isn't actually doing a lot in court, but just sort of an independent observer. I thought that was what the town is doing, and that's very different from actively defending in court, is it not?
We will not be commenting on in-process legal matters, but Essex is represented by its town attorneys. The town attorneys have made appearances in this case, and they are working to ensure that our zoning regulations are properly interpreted by the court.
Okay, but it's not semantic, the difference between just being an independent, observer and
It was that I believe it's semantic,
Okay.
but that's my interpretation and my own opinion.
Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to say is we definitely appreciated the sort of snapshot catching everyone up on what's happening, but it seemed to leave out the fact that the town has the ability to negotiate. And I'm not asking you to comment on whether it is, but obviously that is a possibility, and that certainly wouldn't stop the litigation from moving forward, but it could undermine it. And so I think it's important to clarify that the town has the ability to settle with Scannell/Amazon in this, and it's not simply at the state level. Can you confirm that?
The select board will not comment on in-process legal matters.
No, this is not this is just a general question. Towns have the ability to settle, as has happened in the past in this town. That should be also mentioned as a fact. It also is important for people to know that wouldn't stop the case from going, but it could undermine it. And we're asking, so we're all here because we understand that there could be the potential for Amazon to ask the town to agree to some settlement, and we just think that there's no upside for the town. You would lose your voice in the case. And if the Acres wins the defense, you just lose political points because the select board sort of backed out of it. no matter which way you cut it, there's no upside. You probably already know this, and you folks probably already know this, but I think that's just what some of us are trying to express.
Thanks, Dwayne. I appreciate your comment.
You're welcome.
I will note that we have 3 minutes left. Have you spoken on this item before? No. Okay, come forward then.
I'm Matthew Cross. I am a business owner in Essex, Eavesdrop Audiology. I started looking into this concept of how Amazon's different than the good free market capitalism I kind of like, and where somebody sets up their audiology practice across the street from me and I'm trying to beat them and it helps everybody. They're kind of slinking in, and I don't mind outsiders, but they're not playing within the town plan. If our goal is the highest and best use of a specific piece of land, what needs to be considered within that is how wealth gets circulated. And I was looking into this, and there's research. It was Brookings Institute, MIT, and Berkeley, I think, were doing research on when you get big groups like this in an area, how they take away from the circulation of community money and decrease wealth in the long run. So it's not just a matter of, hey, this looks pretty for our tax base in the short term, which it definitely would, but it's not the highest and best use when we consider all those other long-term ripple consequences, and there is research to support that. So I also sent you guys an email that was kind of a slightly related topic, but it was that's what I was just thinking as I was sitting here. You guys should know this and look this kind of stuff up. I appreciate you hearing my thoughts.
Thank you. I see one more hand up online, and we have a minute left in our 30 minutes allotted. So Gina, go ahead.
A minute. Thanks for the opportunity. I just want to thank you for clarifying. There are so many people in town that don't understand that it's not over. So I appreciate bringing it up to the community that the DRB's decision is not done, that it is being appealed. I think that's really important. There's a lot of misinformation out there. There was a Vermont Chronicle newspaper article that mentioned Beloit, Wisconsin as their example of why it would be good for a community. They had misinformation in there where they said that the Beloit facility was 175,000 square feet. It was really 1 million square feet. And then when I researched what happened in Beloit, Beloit City Council had to settle. Amazon ended up suing Beloit. The argument in the Vermont Chronicle is that it raised local property taxes, and it was good for the community. But what the article left out is that Amazon sued Beloit. Beloit City Council had to approve a settlement to give Amazon a tax refund of more than $400,000 for its fulfillment center. So as my other concerns with this, not only the 4,000-foot road and the traffic, is the spur road that comes off of this project, the lots around it, and there's 300 acres next to this property that I am concerned that they would expand into. And I think we just need to consider how we vision our community and what's best for Essex. Thank you.
And with that, I'm going to close out this agenda item and move on to business item 6H. Consider approval of winter operations plan for 2025-2026. And for those of you who are getting up to leave the room, please drive safely. Speaking of our winter operations plan.
Yeah. It's no longer a plan.
It's in effect.
Right. All right. Hopefully you all had the opportunity to take a look at it. We did post it online. There was a link in the memo we provided you to the plan. It's been posted on our webpage now for 2 months. This winter operations plan has been putting one together now for well over 35 years here at Public Works, and approved by the board every year. There is an internal version and an external version. We do not hand out the internal version, but if anyone would like to look at it, it has a lot of phone numbers, home phone numbers, call signs and all that, so we don't really want the public at large to have access to that information. This year, there's no real major changes with the plan. We're going to continue to use the alert system that we have in the past, kind of the genesis from the COVID. It's on page 3 of your plan. It kind of has like a green phase, yellow phase, red phase. We've seen it help Public Works kind of communicate expectations to the public before, during, and after storm events. We think we're going to continue to use this moving forward. It's been helpful. This year, we've really only had one request for additional sidewalk maintenance, and that was in the Oak Ridge development. That was Laurel Drive. I don't know if anybody know where that is. It's off of Allen Martin Parkway. We looked into cost utilizing our current snow removal contractor for sidewalks, and it would be an additional $5,000–6,000 addition to the contract. This year's contract is currently executed, signed. Hopefully he's up on Carmichael Street and doing what his contract states for us up there. But right now we're looking at $39,850 for this year's contract for sidewalk and maintenance. This would be an additional $5,000 to $6,000 to that. I did talk with our superintendent, Dan Roberge. We could possibly pull it off, but anytime when we can put something on our contract and not have our guys out there an extra hour or two after a major snowstorm event is just beneficial in my eyes. So both options are available. Just leaving that up to you whether or not we would want to add that to this year's contract. We could do that here at this meeting tonight. Didn't know if you wanted to go through page by page. It's getting late, rather not, but I think all of you have had the chance to take a look at it. Just to kind of few highlights. The special conditions for operations, the green, yellow, red phasing is on page 3. Like I said, it's served us well. It's definitely a good tool to communicate with the public on the status of operations. Moving forward, let's go to public information. All external communication. We try to have everything go through our office when it comes to collecting complaints. Staff here at the manager's office does direct all the complaints back to our administrative assistant, Dina. She does a great job of compiling them, addressing them, and directing them in the positions or to the people that need to take a look at it and or address the complaint. Another big important one, sidewalks. That's in section 2 under T6. Kind of goes, prioritizes our sidewalks. Kind of goes through a description on limitations of plowing all sidewalks through town. Most of our sidewalk plows are 4 foot wide, have a 4 foot wide plow blade. Some of our older residential neighborhoods have 4 foot wide sidewalks, fences, guy wires, cable boxes right up on the edge of sidewalks, so it's kind of hard to navigate through. So I encourage you to read through. We do have a priority of coverage on the next page, T7. Kind of lists all the sidewalks in town that we do maintain, where they're located. Mailbox policy, that's the fun one. We do at times hit a few, more than a few. We do offer up a replacement program. We offer every resident $75 for each mailbox if they want to, go to Lowe's and purchase the materials and fix it themselves, or we'll do it for free in the spring. In the meantime, to get them through, we usually give them a 5-gallon pail, a sand, and a stick to post and kind of prop up their mailbox to get them through for the rest of the season. But it served us well. And then the last page, well, when do we do that one? The tow ordinance. That's always a fun one. We're very lenient. I just encourage the public, when there is a major storm, not to say that you can't park in the road when the snow ban's in effect, but it kind of helps us out even during the day if people could try to navigate their vehicles out of the way so we can actually push back all the snow and then you can park your vehicle out there. Very rarely do we ask PD to tow vehicles. We do if it becomes a very severe problem and we need to get stuff done. But anyways, the town towing ordinance, chapter 7.24, is also attached to this document. So, if any of you have any specific questions or comments,
Ethan?
I have a quick question for you, and you don't have to go deep into it, but simple answer is fine. With the potential for consistent increasing in sidewalk plowing, have we ever envisioned or possibly thought of the idea of last call section of sidewalk? So let's say the storm's all done, it may be 2 days later, it may be 3 days later, sun shining for a couple of days, we send the sidewalk plow down and clean it out. You don't have to go way down the hole, but if that's something that maybe something we can kind of test pilot in a couple areas of town where we're not going to be there when it drops 2 inches, but if we get a foot of snow, we might get there next week to push out certain sections. Just a thought.
right? I think what concerns me there, Ethan, is the consistency. If we're not there constantly maintaining that 2 inches, if that's the trigger, and we allow it again to, pile up and or ice over, and pedestrians use it to navigate and someone slips and falls, we maintained it, why weren't we continuing to maintain it? I think we could become open for liability issues of someone tripping on that particular unplowed sidewalk.
Either take care of it the right way or not at all.
Yep.
Agreed. Okay. Somebody asked me the question and I said I would ask, so.
But that would be my recommendation.
Any other board questions? Shannon?
With the occasional mailbox hitting, is that a self-reported thing from the employee, or is that on the duty of the resident to come to you?
Residents let us know. Some of our plow truck drivers don't even realize, like when they're pushing snow back and it's really heavy, they don't even realize that they've broken the mailbox sometimes. It's just so much snow and force and mass, it just shoves it and just knocks it over.
Sure.
But yeah, I have drivers that will, hey Dina, I hit a couple mailboxes here. You might get a phone call. So
okay.
But for the most part, the residents will call because they're the ones who see, hey, what's going on here?
Sure.
They'll let us know. And for the most part, most of the residents, they're pretty cordial about it. I mean, they're agitated, but they understand. So.
Thank you.
Andy?
On the sidewalk ad request, you said it's Bridge, you said 6,000 or 7,000, something like that. And does that fit in our budget?
It's not what was budgeted for
right.
the operating budget for FY26. No.
Okay. But I got the impression that you kind of supported it.
I kind of leave that up to the board to, if they want to add additional sidewalks or address the request of residents to maintain more sidewalks. I'm open to it. Our long-term policy has always been to try to open up into these like dead-end residential neighborhoods and or walkable roads, cross sections. So that's kind of what Allen Martin Parkway does. Opens it up to Laurel and I think it's Partridge on the other side. I think we could probably absorb it. Our sidewalk plow is already down there. It's an extra half-hour trip around the loop. We could do it, or we could. I did my due diligence and got a price from our contractor to do it. So.
Okay.
I'm being vague purposely.
Yeah.
Did you? No?
Yeah, I guess what I'll ask you if I can ask Aaron a question.
Sure.
The sidewalk plan we have in place right now, the plan is based on partially what we've been doing, and also that's based on where students are walking to school, where we get heavy traffic, where we have the manpower to be able to reasonably do it within the time frame before stuff freezes over and gets harder to clean up. Is that all? Yeah.
Yep. Yes, it's outlines. Yeah, it's right here on T6 in section 2. It outlines the whys, whens, wheres, hows, and how we came up with the prioritized list that you'll find on T7, T8, and to T9.
So what I'm getting at, to respond a little bit to your comment about we could add it on. We could. And then next year we could maybe add another one and another one and another one. All of a sudden we're at the point where we need to have a new sidewalk plow or a new person, or we have to scale back or pay a contractor to do it.
Correct.
Like,
And we can always purchase additional equipment. At this point, it's the bodies to stick in them. The guys get overtime. We do prioritize all of our roads first, and then we'll work back into the sidewalk network, pedestrian network. We are pretty cognizant of sidewalks within the Susie Wilson corridor. They definitely get hit right when we start plowing. We try to get our sidewalk plows down there before the morning people start navigating those to get the bus, go to work, and all that. But yeah, it could end up being we have the equipment, but we don't have the bodies to take care of these sidewalks. That's why I got the quote. We know how much it costs from our contractor. It's going to take our guys an extra half hour, maybe hour to do that loop. But they probably already working on 3 or 4 hours of overtime at that point.
Andy?
Who did the request come from? Is it a homeowners
resident.
association or just a resident?
Oh, it's
A
not,
resident,
yeah.
not just a
Twice.
resident.
Not
Okay.
not the H. Yeah.
Not
It
an
was-
HOA. Okay.
It was just the resident.
Okay.
Okay, Ethan.
I'm good.
Shannon.
Could you do the quick math for me? I don't know your overtime rates for the employees, but contractor, you said $7,000. What would it be internally, the cost?
The quick math.
Just quick math, back the envelope.
Yeah, it would be less. I would say maybe half. But there's also my concern as the director, their manager, is how much time they're out there on the road.
Yep.
When it's become a safety issue for them and or the public. Do I want somebody out there for 14 hours driving first in a truck and then stick them in a sidewalk plow for another 6 hours to go clean sidewalks? Not ideal. So that's when it comes into that difference in cost of our guys doing it versus the contractor. That extra couple $1,000 What is it buying us?
Sure. Would it be possible to add it to the very lowest part of the priority list and be like, you know, get it when you can, or kind of like, not Ethan was saying like a prioritization list, but when it starts out like today, we're probably not going to have another snowstorm for 2 weeks.
Thanks.
Yeah. No, but could you add it, and then if it gets too much by, you know, December, January, whatever it is, just be like, you know, we can't take it on, and then next year we could have the discussion about a contractor for $7,000.
I think if you're doing it for into January, and then you stop, you're in the same spot. Is you got to continue to do it. Are you saying continue it to see where we're going to be financially, or?
Not more so. I think it's more of on me at least. It's safety and time that I'm concerned about. And if we're getting pummeled with snow this winter, you know, and we're racking up the overtime, I'm not really concerned with the overtime cost. I'm more concerned with the safety of the employees. And it sounds like that's what your priority is, and I really respect that. You know, this is you brought this to us, and it sounds like a single resident was bringing this up. You know, again, if it's a late lift, I'd say go for it. But if it's not, I'd want to hear more from the residents.
Ethan.
That was gonna be what I was gonna say. Was that last year, and historically, in my couple of years on the select board, there's been a lot of single requests. Last year was unique because we had a group of 15 to 20 people that came in and asked about a specific area with children, and we added it to the plan. I'm hesitant to add this, for one, because of the cost, but for two, because of singular request. Starts a precedent of something where we might as well start plowing every sidewalk today.
Agreed.
So I would err on the side of caution that until a request is made to the select board to add. I know this request is made to the public works, but we did have 20 people show up last year and we approved it.
Shannon.
You know, building off of that, I kind of agree with what we just had 2 meetings ago, I guess technically it was, about the speed in Tanglewood, and you want 80%, you know, or whatever the number was for, you know, whatever plan we move forward with. I would think something similar to that for adding to our responsibilities would be a good way to go forth with it. 80% might be high, but something along the line.
Yeah. Ethan.
Make a motion that we approve the winter operations plan
And sign.
and sign the. I'll just got kicked out of it.
Oh, hold on. I'll still.
You got it?
And sign the attached policy resolution. That's what you said. Is there a second?
Yeah. There we go. Do you want me to read the resolution?
Let's read the resolution if it passes.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize, but Kendall had his hand up. I didn't see it when the motion was made, so I'd like to give Kendall an opportunity.
And the public potential.
I'll be brief. I've sucked the sweetness out of this gumdrop, but I'll drop it again. I have no beef with the highway department. They do everything we can, but I find it abhorrent that this board can't figure out a way to plow your sidewalks. You're seeing more and more communities do that. I'm hearing more and more talk about they want Essex to be a recreation district. And all I have to say to that is that if you go down Allen Martin Drive in January, you see 3 beautiful sidewalks come across the road, go to big snow piles. And that's not the only place that happens. So I think the board really needs to step up. If, you know, we discussed spending $1 million or more for new initiatives when we're not even maintaining the ones that we have, and we're still requiring everybody to build them. So that's my spiel. I just think that at some point in time it's going to come home to roost. It's really if you told me that a town could get away with maintaining public structures for some residents and not other residents, I would have said you can't do that, but that's what we do.
Thanks, Kendall.
Thank you.
Is the board okay for me to open this up to public comment? Is there any public comment on the winter operations plan for 25-26? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Does everybody have a motion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay?
Motion carries 4-1. And up next, consider approval of truck 112.
112. I thought best on how to describe where we're at with this, how we got here. Your memo in the packet, the recommendation will likely change after our discussion here. This was approved for purchase with the fiscal year 26 capital plan. Truck 112 came before you back on February 24th for discussion, and you approved the purchase then for a cab and chassis and the fit for the truck, which is the body and the plow equipment. Cab and chassis is complete. From the point of your approval to purchase the vehicle, which is, let me step back, two-part process. Cab and chassis for a plow truck first, and then we take that and we ship it to a fit-up. So it gets its body, the dump body, all internals, spreader, all the plow equipment, and all the fun stuff that hangs off the side and the front. Cab and chassis is complete, and it took to last month for that to be completed and for us to hand over the check and to pay for it. Now it needs to move to fit up. So 8 months later, we get our truck and we need to get it fit up. And back in February, we got a quote from Viking Sieves for $99,500 for the fit up. Well, the most recent one we got, just for my superintendent doing his due diligence, increased to $117,300. Substantial increase. So I said, Dan, go out and get 2 more quotes. Let's see what others would give us. So HP Fairfield came in at $114,132. This was supposed to be on the first meeting of November. It got bumped. We're here tonight. After that meeting, Dan was talking with Viking Sieves about another truck that we're getting upfitted. Mentioned this one. They came back with another quote of $107,400, which puts us way under the HP Fairfield price, and puts us on target with what was approved back at the February 24th meeting, which was $213,306. With no calculation for trade-in, and this new quote from Viking Sieves, we're going to be $7,900 over that last approved cost for plow truck 112. Including a trade-in, we're under. They're saying they're going to give us roughly $15,000 to $20,000 for our existing truck 112. So it will put us under what was previously approved on the February 24th meeting. So those are the numbers, long-winded, how we got there. This memo, the recommendation, should change. Second sentence where it says from HP Fairfield, insert from Viking Sieves.
That's awesome. That was my whole question.
Any questions? Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, would anyone like to make a motion? Kendall?
I would just ask the question. So we're back to Viking Chives because they came back under the price.
Yeah.
In the future, I might be interested to know what cost there is to the town to ship a truck to New Hampshire and have it fit up. or do you guys drive it back and forth? Because there's got to be a cost.
We would drive it back and forth. So
Yeah.
time is money.
Time is money.
Um,
Wear and tear on the truck. I'm just
Yep.
curious. It seemed like a long ways to take a truck.
And it is. They used to be local around here, and then the one here in Vermont gone, so it's only across state. That's the nature of it. We have one to play with around here. If you want competitive bids, you got to go elsewhere. You know, you kind of. We had good luck with the Janus. They fit up a couple of our 1-tons. They did a great job. I mean, they're working out the bugs, but and they're over in upstate New York or down towards Middletown, I think.
What about Tenco?
Hmm?
Is Tenco out of business?
I'm not sure.
Barry?
I'm not sure.
Up of the hill?
Yeah, I think for some reason we were supposed to stay away from them.
Same reason you stay away from HP Fairfield, but it's just my opinion.
Anyways, hopefully you guys understood the process, the money, numbers this late at night after this meeting, I'm sure was difficult.
Any questions?
No, you need a motion? Make the motion that we approve the purchase of the plow equipment, body and installation for the replacement vehicle for plow truck number 112 from Viking Chive. Direct the town manager to sign the purchase agreement.
Second.
Thank you, Kendall. Thank you, Shannon, for the second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Seeing that the last item is a potential executive session, I'm going to fast forward to the reading file. If anybody has any items, Shannon.
I just want to thank the staff as well as all the vendors that made this year's initial and debut farmers market such a success. I think it was an excellent season and really brought together a lot of nice people.
Indeed. Indeed.
I was gonna echo that same sentiment, and I was gonna say that, you know, this should be a really bold statement, and the amount of engagement and appreciation that it was, and the push that it was to make this come to life, even before, you know, it had to be excelled in the way it was in the rec department. That we should really explore more local things that are simple and effective.
It's good.
Oh, I hit the mic.
Sorry, Logan.
The Regional Planning Commission has a annual breakfast with our state legislators, where they talk about issues that are important to the municipalities that participate in the CCRPC. Neither Tracy nor I are available to go to that because I'm the CCRPC rep and Tracy's the alternate. That's why so I'd like to offer it up to anybody else who'd be interested in going. Of course, staff is also do attend it as well. But if anybody on the select board wants to go, it's free, and it's December 10th from
December
7:30 to 9 at the. Didn't write down where it is. It's on Williston Road there.
We can get you a location.
In the building?
The Delta Hotel. Is it Delta?
Duke's?
Yeah, where Duke's eatery is. I forget the name of that place now too. My goodness,
I don't know.
So, if anybody's interested, you can forward the information.
Can you send me the information?
How to
Yeah.
sign yourself up to go. But it's probably a situation where we don't want to have a quorum again. But
And yes, 7:30 to 9 a.m. The Delta Hotel, 117.
Delta Hotel, yeah.
1117 Williston Road.
If is there a sign up link or how do you?
Yeah, there's a sign up link. Yep. So I can forward that to anybody who would like to see it. And you want to go, Shannon? That sounds like.
Yeah, I don't have my work calendar in front of me, but it seems like
So
a Wednesday.
I'll just send it to everybody. And
Wednesday at 7:30 sounds doable for me. So in the morning, right?
Yes, yes. Breakfast, yeah.
Not breakfast for dinner.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. All right.
And I love if one of my comrades here wants to join me. There'll be snow by then, so.
Yep.
Yeah. it might be
Thanks for that,
somewhere.
Andy. If you want to forward that, that would be
you,
appreciated. And thanks for including the executed tree farm lease agreement and the assessing service agreement. It's good to see those across the finish line. And also the budget review, the fiscal year 26 review.
Yeah, the
Appreciate
budget
it.
review looks good.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to draw your attention to item 7H, the restorative justice in Chittenden County that was added since the November 3rd meeting as part of the transition with the Community Justice Center to Burlington. We're trying to get input from area residents, not just in Essex, but throughout the county, that receive restorative justice services, but want to get input from stakeholders such as yourselves, residents who might feel anything about community justice, and just trying to get some input about how to make that transition successful for the future for the county.
Just one last comment.
Yes.
I just want to thank April Peterson for her service on the Conservation Trails Committee and wish her well on her upcoming deployment.
Yes. Andy.
I just want to ask, when are we going to see the preview of the budget?
I was originally hoping for this Friday. Based on some delays, it's going to be next Friday, hopefully sooner, but no later than next Friday.
Okay.
We have our budget workshop is Friday, December 5th, so that would give you a couple of weekends and a couple of weeks to look it over ahead of time.
Good, good.
Are you gonna print it?
I can do that for anybody who wants it. Is that
Be
one?
appreciated. You want a binder?
I'd take a binder.
Yeah,
Please.
may as well kick me one too.
Might as well.
I can bring back my binder from last year.
Sure.
True. Yeah. Sometimes
Still
the
have it.
scrolling gets to be too much. Alrighty. So if we're done with reading file, we do have a warned executive session. Andy?
2 of them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
The same ones.
Yeah, it's
okay.
the same
I got
one.
the motions up. If you want.
Go ahead.
I move that the select board make the specific finding that general public knowledge of pending or probable civil litigation or prosecution to which the public body is or may be a party would place the town at a substantial disadvantage.
Thank you. Andy, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ethan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Andy.
Oh, I move that the select board enter into executive session to discuss pending or probable civil litigation or prosecution to which the public body is or may be a party pursuant to 1 VSA 313A1E to include the town manager and the deputy town manager.
Thank you. Andy, is there a second? Thank you, Ethan. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. We are now in executive session. I do not believe that we have any action coming out of this, so we will only be returning to adjourn. Thanks, folks.